You know you're on, right?
We live.
Listen, it's usually like some music or some shit. Like, no. Hey, you guys, y'all, JR left me to do this by myself, and I don't know what I'm doing. Hi, happy Friday. Okay, I'm going to introduce our panelists for tonight. We have Mistaken,
Ooh, glad to be back.
Coach K,
Hello, hello.
Enos,
Hi, everyone.
Miss Della, Team Della, Mr. Let Go,
What's happening?
Hink, and Tap. Okay, you guys. Oh, my name is Shan Monet, formerly known as Shantae, not to be confused with Shantae, and this is a Chic critique. I'm so happy to be back, y'all. We went away for a little bit, but we're back. Some drama happened, but we'll talk about that later. Yes, a lot of drama happened, actually. All right, you guys. So tonight we are talking about marriage because there are some men who are reluctant to walk down the aisle or to ask a woman to marry them because they have some concerns, and we're going to talk about those concerns tonight. First of all, let's see if the panelists knows what those concerns are. What is the issue? What do you guys think the issue is with men wanting to get married today in 2022? Why are so many men against being married?
Can I take a stab at it?
No, because you're gonna be long-winded.
I promise. I'm working on it. Watch. Okay.
Go ahead.
I think is a few reasons. One, that whole saying about why buy the cow when you could get the milk for free. So they're already getting the benefits of marriage without truly jumping the broom, so to speak. The other thing I think is the probability of divorce and what that may entail, the aftermath of a divorce. So those are the two reasons that I think.
Anybody else want to take a stab at it? How about them guys? I mean, that's what they're here for. So
All right, I'll jump in. One part of marriage is protection and being responsible for our wives and families, and just the way the world is now, in our Black community, women are brainwashed or were brainwashed by their mothers, and they're full of women families. Most Black families are 90% women. So all these cackling women in the family have brainwashed their young daughters and their young nieces and told them that you don't need no man, you don't need to be protected. And, so at the end of the day, it's not even us not wanting to marry women. Is the women not knowing either how to be a wife because their mother wasn't married. Her mother was a single mother. Her auntie was a single mother. Her cousin was a single mother. So the only thing that the mom or the daughter or anybody knows how to do is to be a mother. And she goes out and looks for a man to mother instead of a man to be a wife to, because you can't teach something that you don't know. So most of the women out here are looking to mother a man instead of being a wife to a man. Therefore, we're out here just like, all right, we really don't have anybody to marry.
is that? Oh, really? I gotta do the sound effects. Sorry. Adela, you're on mute. You're not on mute.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. You want to go out and come back in? Make sure your volume on your computer is on. I mean, it's been a while. Anybody else want to tap into that? That was a first. Okay, I'll let you guys speak and then I'll say my 2 cents.
Can I ask Mr. Let Go a quick question with something that he said? So you said that you think that women are looking to mother the men that they are with because they were raised by single moms. So do you think in turn that men who were raised in a single-led household are looking for mothers to marry as opposed to a wife?
Yes, that's another part of it. So it all stems from the single mother epidemic. It's the biggest epidemic. The AIDS epidemic was not as big, as bad, and as terrible and as destructive as the single mother epidemic. It's one of the biggest. The crack epidemic and the AIDS epidemic together is not nowhere near as destructive as the single mother epidemic has put us. But yeah, the men are losers and the women look to mother the loser men because that's literally what they were taught to do. Because if their dad or some man was around when they was growing up, he was a loser. Because there's always that one loser uncle in the 90% women family that everybody babied and fed in Thanksgiving or whatever, and was living with auntie or grandmama or whatever. So that's the only man that they really grew up seeing. So they mothered him and let him live over here and live over there, whatever, or just got out of jail. So overall, the men are trash and the women are looking for men who are trash because that's all they're knowing to look for. Because they don't, you get with a woman to get with a stable, good, responsible man, and the first thing she's going to be like, "Ooh, he's controlling. Ooh, I can't deal with him. Ooh, he's a narcissist." Because I got an opinion, because I have a certain amount of leadership, because I'm not going to let you mother me. I'm a narcissist. I'm a this, I'm a that. So this is what men deal with. So next thing you know, we just like, all right, we'll just stay single. Because we don't really hurt by being single. We could be single till we 55 and turn around and get with a 35-year-old and be straight. So we don't find a woman. We happy is I don't know what being single. So it don't really hurt us.
That 35 and 55 is a rumor, but I rarely see it happen. It sounds good though. But okay, so anybody else wanted to give their opinion on that? Because I have a follow-up question actually.
Well, I mostly agree with Mr. Letgo with men not being able to find marriageable women. And the second part of that is I don't think that too many men know how to be or know what it means to be a husband. So it's kind of a two-part thing. And the third part of it is what they're fed on social media. They see a lot of the Instagram and the shaking the butt, and the truth of the matter is no man really wants that at all, except maybe for a night or two. That's the truth. We don't want to live with it. And then we hear the accept me as I am in that part, and we're not going for that. We're not going to go for it. So we'd rather fly you out, bust you down, and send you home.
If I can jump in on this as well, I agree with a lot of what's been said already. And to add to it, I'd say that people aren't taught the value of marriage anymore. We talk about the benefits all the time, but the benefits aren't enough for people to want to get married, to tough out a marriage, to stick through a marriage, to go through all of the hard work without understanding the value. Like, it's just not going to add up. And until we start to talk about the value of marriage and not just the benefits, I think people will continue to choose not to get married.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm gonna speak on. To me, a lot of women don't want to put that work in. They just don't want to put that work in because it's not easy. It's a job. It is a job. It's an endless job. That's what it is, and you have to work at it every day, every second. Sometimes you just don't get the benefits of what you think. So it's like it's something you have to do on a regular basis, and a lot of women don't want to do that. They okay when it's good, everything's good. The sun's shining, the rainbow's out. Everything's great. That's easy to deal with when everything's nice. But when it gets hard, when them storms comes and them issues you have to deal with, maybe even sickness you have to deal with. A lot of women don't want to deal with that. They will be ready to quit. They're ready to tap out and say, forget it, because I don't feel like doing this anymore. I'm not in love with him because he upset me because he didn't do something I wanted him to do at a certain time. So a lot of ladies are not willing to put that work in to be married. Now, for the guys, like you said, if they don't have to, we're not gonna settle down with you. If I could get everything that you offer from me, and you don't have no standards, and you're gonna just let me have what I want to have, the wife type benefits, without me being a husband, then we're gonna take advantage until we're forced to change. Are we forced to do something different? Now, if y'all ladies start forced to do something different, then we'll adjust. But if we don't have to, we won't.
Women have turned into the Pizza Hut of this, the new millennial. You know, back in the day, you order a pizza, the pizza gets here 30 minutes or less, or your money back type of stuff. We don't order pizza anymore. We just call up a chick. She gets there before 30 minutes. And having a life like that, why get married? I personally want to get married, but just women just giving out pizza like it's and the pizza be free. Imagine ordering a pizza and it's free. You know what I'm saying? So you don't need no coupon. Yo, I got a coupon. You don't need none of that stuff. You just call up. Yo, come over here.
Understand.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's actually hard to pull yourself away from all of the free pizza to actually, work at a pizza company and make pizza. So it's kind of like that. But personally, I want to get married. I look to get married. I love family, things like that. But it's kind of hard to just pull away from the free pizza, just because sometimes you come to the door, somebody just standing there with a pizza. Hey, you want some pizza? And you're like, sure. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like
you
that.
just take pizza from anybody, just cheap pizza, free pizza.
No, I open the box and smell it, see if it's hot. You know what I'm saying? What kind of toppings is on it? You know what I'm saying? Certain toppings I don't like. So, I'd be like, nah, I'm good.
Some toppings you can't get rid of. So better watch
out. Exactly. So I don't like all toppings. I don't like anchovies. You know what I'm saying?
Chantel, there you go with that community stuff again. Not everybody.
He just said he takes pizza from a random stranger at the door.
Everybody's community, though. Not everybody like you accused me of that before the show.
Listen, this is what he said. I'm just trying to really understand him. Whatever, Hank. Anybody else wanted to give their input?
So I agree with Mr. Let Go as well as Hank when it comes to if women have standards, men will adjust. I think history has proven that time and time again. And to some extent, you're right. Many women, that's what we know how to do is mother. And in many situations that happens. I do want to go back to a comment that Hank made, so forth as women not being ready to weather the storm. Well, my question to you is that comment was specifically made about women. What are your thoughts about men being ready to weather the storm, or just, I just find that very interesting.
Men don't usually leave.
About females.
And when I say weather storm, that's what I'm talking about. As soon as the weather gets bad, they quick to file for that divorce paper or separation or legalized separation, whatever they want to call it. They're quick to do that.
I just have a different perspective with women. I guess maybe my experiences are different just looking on the outlook. Many times, there are so many different situations, couples that you can see where Black women definitely stand by their men. Men where they've gotten into situations, they've weathered the storms, and many Black women stick by their men through thick, thin weather, tornadoes, and hurricanes. So that's
over 75% of marriages are initiated. Over 75% of divorces are initiated by women.
So let me ask you a question, though.
Can I respond to that?
Let her finish it. Go ahead, Tia.
Is that because men are just not willing to file for divorce, right? A man can tap out of the divorce or the marriage and not actually file. A man can tap out, be done, and serve and be there in the marriage, but be isolated and allow the woman, almost force the woman to file for divorce.
Well, that right there, none of us can really just look at, prove, or whatever, just from a statistical standpoint. who is initiating the divorces is women. So we could sit around and say why, who, what, when, but nobody knows.
But is that a fair statement to say that when men are the ones who initiate marriage, when we're talking about the decline of marriage? Because if men are initiating marriage and we're only focusing on the fact that women are initiating divorce, then there's a little bit of disconnect about who's really doing what.
Well, the disconnect is the person initiating the divorce. Because if the man is initiating the marriage and then you got a woman initiating divorce, who's the counterproductive person in that scenario?
Can I so just looking at some like little bit of research and stuff that I had found, it was saying that men benefit the most in a marriage. It was also saying that even in bad marriages, men tend to benefit. And it said that typically, like reasons why women eventually end up initiating divorce more often as men, more often than men, is because women are more likely to feel held back within their marriage, whether it's related to like their, careers. A lot of times women will put their goals and stuff on the back burner within the marriage and see the man progress, and then kind of have some resentment, towards that, because they're not kind of pushing forward the way they had envisioned themselves to. And then they also take on more of the emotional burden within a marriage. And that at this day and age, a lot of things that women used to tolerate within marriage, like with being with unacceptable behavior, that they are willing to walk away now, as opposed to putting up with that. So those were some of the top 3 reasons that women said that they, why they initiate divorce.
So what you're saying is you go in a situation
at a time, please.
So you go into a situation and next thing you know, you don't like the situation you signed up for. And now you start resenting the person that married you. And you, like your words, you using your words, the man actually grows financially and you like, oh, I could divorce him and then get some money.
No, that's not what it said. It
Sounds good to me. I'm out of here.
No,
Right?
it said typically women, before like they meet their significant other, if they're in the workforce, they're working, and then they put their careers on hold. Like how you guys said that's what you're looking for in a woman. You don't want your woman to work. You don't want them, to do nothing other than take care of the family. So some women, well, in these YouTube streets.
No, nobody said that. Okay, I'm just checking.
Not you specifically, but that's what they would prefer. So what ends up happening is they will put their career on hold and make that sacrifice in regards to that. But because they put that on hold, they actually give you the ability to progress in your career. And so
let's be realistic. Wait, give me a second. Let's be realistic in a Black home. That sounds like one of those above average people's homes. Okay, like the man's doing that, So let's be realistic in the average home. Okay, but what I read was majority women who are in a situation where they are the breadwinner, the divorce rate is going to be high. If the woman is the breadwinner, and this is stats I found, the divorce rate is going to be high.
Mm-hmm.
And so
the other one too was if a woman brings in at least 40% of the income, men end up having kind of like in a emotional, I don't know if the word is emotional, but it tends to impact them. If a woman is bringing in at least 40% of the income.
Well, let me say this. In 2022, why is the men benefiting more from marriage than women?
Well, it's always.
I don't see why y'all sit there saying it. Because if in 2022 people are not getting married, I could have a relationship and still get the same benefit as a husband. There's no difference. There's none. Not in 2022. Y'all, we don't have to get married, and I'm gonna get the same benefits. What's any difference?
That's kind of like what we were saying earlier. We do get more benefits not being married than we do married.
Well, it depends on what you consider. I guess what Enos was saying is value, because I mean, it depends on you. For example, and we'll talk about this a little later. What is it that you want your legacy to look like? Because that's your last name you're carrying on. Do you want it to be a legacy of single moms that you? Give me a second. Do you want your legacy, which is your last name, to be carried on by a bunch of single moms, kids who weren't raised with their father in the household? Because it's generational curses. You know, at the end of the
day, I'm sorry.
Listen, at the end of the day, it's your last name that's riding on the decision that you're making. Okay, so go out and do whatever you want to do. Don't be married. Your kids, your grandkids, all of them see that you're the patriarch in the family. You're the leader in the family. We do as you do. You lead by example. So if that's what you want your last name that to carry on to be, knock yourself out.
But y'all doing it already.
What?
Women are doing it already.
But how, okay, so even if it is done already, how is this working for us, Hink? How is it working? Is it working great for us? Is it we're flourishing here?
But Shantae, if y'all depending on the man to marry y'all, you got to give us something. You got to present something for us finding you worth marrying.
I absolutely.
And if only thing you're going to sit there and provide for me is a reason for a damn tax break, is that it?
No, it's not it.
It's
not worth it.
It's not. First of all, we're going to go.
I can have a full-time relationship and get the same benefits without the tax break.
And that's fine. But what I'm saying to you is when you look in the mirror, if that's what you want your legacy to be, knock yourself. This is free game. This is on you. This is what you want for yourself and your children, and what you want you want your last name to be carried on. It's not her last name, it's yours. It's yours. So if that's what you want to happen, knock yourself out. We're just having a conversation. And at the end of the day, it's not working well for us. We've seen it in the past. We have single mothers. We have these kids born out of wedlock. We see school system below average learning. If that's what you want us to continue to do, the numbers don't lie. Kids do better when both parents are in the household. They just do.
I got a question then. Without that being said,
married though, Shantae.
You said what?
If
you could be both in the same house without being married.
So
people's been shacking up forever.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Well, that's a problem, brother. That's a huge problem.
I agree.
I got a question though. Marriage is for the children, then, right?
A healthy marriage is for all those involved. But
kids specifically is for the children. It's not even for the parents.
No,
because
I think the children get the most benefit.
That's what we're talking about. If the children get the most benefit, the marriage is for the children.
Well, I don't. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. We as men don't necessarily want to spend the rest of our lives with one freaking woman. We want to sleep with different women. And one of the things that we give up as men is the ability to just sleep with different women. We grow out of that. We don't grow out of that. It's kind of like, we don't, but we do. So it's okay. But at the end of the day, when you look at benefits, it's for the children. And I think that's the problem with what we're seeing. Because the person leaving the marriage is usually the woman. So when you look at who the marriage is really for, the children, the man is willing to stay in the marriage, whether he's happy or not, for the children. But the woman, the second she isn't happy, she's out. So it goes back to the counterproductivity of the women that are in our community. Because when we do turn around and marry y'all asses, y'all turn around and screw the marriage up all over again. So it's like we marry you, you screw it up. We don't marry you, you become single mothers and screw the kids up because either we ain't around or you don't let us around, and the kids end up screwed up. So it's like from the man's point of view, what do? We turn around and marry y'all. You divorce us. Not speaking from personal, but when we do marry you, you divorce us. But we don't marry you. So it's like we just sit around like it's whatever, you know what I'm saying? So
I hear exactly what you're saying, and I don't agree that women should just leave. If you're talking about a woman who's just leaving a marriage for no reason because of superficial reasons,
Tia Mowry.
Listen,
She's running around talking about, oh, I graduated. Marriage is a graduate. My marriage was a graduation. I graduated from my marriage. I just broke up my marriage. This is what I'm talking about.
So with that situation, yes, we all know that there are women who absolutely, and I think it's important for us to speak on that because we're not gonna let it go until we do. Yes, there are women who take advantage of the situation, who divorce for whatever reason, and they're superficial reasons, they're just not legit reasons to divorce, in a marriage. So I completely understand that, but that is not every situation. It's not, and I would even say,
well, it's most situations.
We can say if there is nothing going on in a relationship, let's just say we're talking about a perfect guy who's not sleeping with anybody else, never cheated. He comes home every day, that type of man, and she leaves him. She's absolutely wrong for that situation. I would agree. But I think that sometimes what happens is there are men who stay in marriages, but they've got another situation going on the side. So it kind of helps him get through the marriage because he has that second situation going on the side. So let's not forget that.
But if it helps us get through the marriage, it might be terrible. But
why do you think a man has another family on the?
So what's her cop out? So what's her cop out? What does she get to do to help her along? Since you have assistance in helping you, what does she get to help her?
Why does she need something to help her?
So you're able to go off into fantasy land with somebody else to help you cope with the relationship, which means that's what's stopping you from getting, you don't have to get a divorce because you're getting two things where she has nothing to help her.
If you get to do this, why don't I get to do that? Well,
no, I'm not saying cheating. I'm asking you, what does she have to help her? It doesn't have to be cheating.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That would be up to the woman because I'm not saying it's right. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is we got to stop making excuses on why y'all keep initiating divorce. Figure it out. Find out what's going on because between the two sexes, you may need more or something that from us or whatever, and we may need more or something from you, but we got to work this stuff out. And this is the point. The key is working this out because all y'all want to do is, that's the reason why I'm leaving you. Like between the two sexes, we want to sleep with different women versus women want to be with one man. It's something that the majority of us have heard at some point growing up. Men look for every woman to satisfy our one urge, but women look for every man. No, I'm sorry. Men look for different women to satisfy this one urge. Women look for one man to satisfy all of her urges. So when she finds that one man, to a certain degree, she's good just from a biological standpoint. And I'm not saying women don't crave sex, but just, the way we are wired, we look for different women to feed one to make us happy in one way. Women look for one man to make her happy in every way. So the way we're wired,
both of you are supposed to look for each other, and she's supposed to complete you, and you're supposed to complete her. That's how.
That's fantasy land, though. That's not what we're supposed to do. That's not the way it works. We're supposed to work it out. Find some way to work it out, but nothing is supposed to be what it's supposed to be because that's fantasy land.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Since he gets all of these perks, what are her perks?
To be protected and have a man that will die for her and be responsible for her and never have to be alone. And the older she gets, the more overweight she gets, the less attractive she gets. And we'll stay with her and make sure she continues to have. And then if he dies, most likely we die early, you get the benefits of insurance. That's why.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so that brings me to something that was said earlier into the conversation around, in sickness or in health. If that were true, then part of terminal illnesses that are found in women, part of that counseling would not include conversations around divorce, where men are perpetually leaving women who are terminally ill, right? If that were true, and men being leaders, you would look for a solution instead of trying to go against the word that you have given, your vow in front of God or whomever it is that you believe, and trying to find a solution, right? Like it seems to me like there's so much blame put on the women for not having standards, for putting out too soon, for not sticking through a partner who's not holding up to the standards that they set, for not showing up, for shielding their children against disappointment. It's all of this blame that's put on women, and yet somehow we take the focus off of men being leaders until men want to beat their chests and say that we are leaders, and yet nobody's having the conversation about what leadership looks like in these situations. When things get tough, are we having those conversations with men saying, hey, you really need to step up, you really need to stick it through, you need to stop running in these streets and go home to your wife? Are we having those conversations? Because it doesn't seem like we are. And
Well,
just
the number one thing that all of us men are saying is work it out. And the women, it's not even blaming women. We're just using a statistic that's true. So nobody is blaming men or women. Nobody on this panel, from what I've heard, has blamed anybody. But this is a way of, I don't know. I think women love to say somebody's blaming. I don't know what that is, but nobody's blaming anybody. I think it's kind of sad to sit around and be like, you're blaming that. Nobody has done that. We're saying there's a true statistic that women initiate divorce 75% more than men. That's one thing. And I just simply said, if women were to work it out and stick it out instead of mouring men, run around, I'm happy. Every time a woman divorces, what they want to do on social media, girl, I'm happy. Ooh, look at me. I'm divorced. Yes, girl. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a celebration. So there's two celebrations that women usually get is having a fatherless baby and getting a divorce. And both are terrible things, but those are the two things that women love to big up other women for doing. So when it comes to blaming, it's not about blaming. We're just being real. Because the thing about it is, as men, we talk about our ways of seeing things, right? And then it's turn around, we're blaming women. Well, you got to understand, we're men. We date women. Y'all are women. Y'all date men. So y'all are going to see men in a certain light, and we're going to see women in a certain light. Nobody's blaming anything. So when men actually come out and say whatever it is they want to say or how they feel about whatever, of course, the opposite sex. We're not going to sit around and complain about men. We don't date men. So when men complain about women, women complain about men, we're just talking because we date the opposite sex. So we're going to view the opposite sex in a certain way because we're dating them. Y'all have the same issues with us. But do we sit around and say, all y'all want to do is blame men? No, we're having a conversation about y'all, and y'all are having a conversation about us.
Absolutely.
So
You know what? When I think
y'all
about
blaming men or blaming women, let's just have a conversation. Go ahead.
when I think about kind of like the world that we live in and just how deprived we are of emotional intelligence, and then we couple that with people and interpersonal relationships. You know, this is a universe based on law of attraction. And so energy is really important. And, you know, when you talk about emotional intelligence and we look at the divorce rate being as high as it is, regardless of who it's being initiated by, the divorce rates are insane. And if it's not divorce rates, then, you know, it's people just having kids together being the new marriage and then kind of going their separate ways. And so when we talk about a lack of, you know, emotional intelligence and how that relates to marriages, for me, that's the basis of the conversation. You know, emotional intelligence isn't something that we're born with. It's something that we have to learn. You know, you go through the stages of being dependent. Then the next stage is independent. The following stage is interdependence. And a lot of us get stuck on the independent stage, and then we want to get into a relationship or into a marriage that really fosters interdependency, and we don't have the emotional intelligence that to actually foster that relationship long term. And so when I'm looking at the divorce rates, it's also bringing up for me a lot of just the lack of knowledge that people have in terms of how to actually choose the person that you are going to be standing beside for what you call the rest of your life, and how, what to actually look for. And are you actually ready for the marriage? And so, for me, it's really a lack of emotional intelligence as to why, the collective is really suffering with interdependent relationships.
Della, I think you touched on I think you touched on something very important, and it goes back to what I was saying. Do younger men especially, do they know what it means to be a husband? And do women know what it means to be a wife? Like, do we really know, especially with, as Mr. Letgo was saying earlier, the single mother households being rampant in our community from the mid 80s all the way until the mid 2000s, and we're now
No, it's
finally,
still a problem.
and I think we're kind of coming out of that. I think we're learning that you need two parents in the household. I think we're coming to a precipice where we're going to cross over. I think, and I hope, and I pray. But do young men and women have the skills, and do they know how to pick? Like you touched on both of those, and I think that's where the high divorce rates come from. No, they don't know how to pick. No, they don't know what they're looking for. No, they don't know how to be it themselves. And that's both genders. That's not a male thing or a woman thing. That is both. And we have to figure out how we treat we as men train the young men coming up, and how you as ladies train the younger ladies coming up to be what they need to be in order to maintain a household.
Completely agree with what you just said. There's no better way to show young men and young women how to be a husband or how to be a wife other than modeling, right? So we have to take leadership and take the initiative. It goes back to, I know what this is Inez was saying. What is the value in marriage? I would beg to differ that marriage is just for the children. How many relationships, how many people are married and don't have children? Then if what you say is indeed true, then what is the purpose for a couple, a man and a woman, to get married if they don't plan on having kids? There's so much more to marriage than just the kids. Sometimes that's the problem, right? If you get married and the attention goes solely to the kids, then that's that kind of, and of course I'm going based on Christianity at this point. Who comes first? Your spouse. Your spouse comes first, and then it's the kids. So when you get out of that order, then of course there is going to be chaos. But we're living in a world where that's just not the reality for most people. When you're talking about, many people have gotten divorced and then you get remarried, you've got a blended family, then all those things come into play. But the order in that God speaks of, your husband or your wife is first, and then the kids. Now, do children benefit from marriage? Absolutely. But the value of marriage is so much more than just the children.
God is
We're
first.
just saying the benefactor.
God
Thing
is
about
first.
it, a lot of
Just
these
like
women
with
put the
the
kids
kids.
before their husband, though. I was on the
Agreed.
show last
Agreed.
Thursday, and we talked
That's the
about this.
problem.
A
That's
woman would
exactly
sell out
what
her
I'm
husband
saying.
over her kids
Agreed.
because she felt like her kid was a threat. She was willing to sell her husband out. And Mr. Lego was on that show, and it wasn't even talking about a criminal thing. It wasn't even a criminal aspect of it, even though Mr. Lego bought power and made it a whole criminal damn thing and pushed a criminal agenda with it. But it didn't have to be. But she was ready to sell out her husband. The hell with him. I'm worried about these kids. But your husband comes first. So a lot of women's priorities are messed up. They
Well,
we,
there
we
is
see why
it's a
women
context
celebrate. We watch
standpoint though.
women celebrate a baby showers instead of celebrating marriage. That's what ladies are willing to do. They don't. I mean, they don't care about marriage no more.
But
They
but
don't.
does that come back to the man picking the right one though? Like I don't mean to be the asshole here, but it
No, I
sounds
mean,
like
is it trying to pick right
if the
one?
priorities are off and the man sets the priorities, because we agree the man sets the priority. If she's not willing to follow, did we pick wrong to begin with? Is
Well, it
that
ain't no
more
good
on
women out
us
here.
or the ladies?
There's not no good women out here then. Because you can't tell them shit.
That's Rob.
You got people even promote. We don't need a man. What do we need a man for?
So
Chantel was on a show Sunday talking about that bullshit.
All right, so
who said they don't need a man Sunday?
Can you hear me?
Who?
Go ahead, Marcus.
Okay. So I'm at a leadership school that everything falls at the feet of us as men. If you're gonna lead, you gotta accept responsibility for everything that come with it. If I lead y'all in the battle and we get killed, that was my fault. If I lead this family in the wrong direction and we become homeless, that was my fault. If these kids is failures, that was my fault. And my wife fails through me because she was following my instructions on how I wanted these kids raised. If I'm not willing to accept the responsibility for what's coming, then I can't call myself no leader in good faith. I got to be a partner. It's got to be a partnership at that, and we can share responsibility in these failures. But I'm going to accept the brunt of that. My whole life, I've always accepted that role, and I know exactly what comes with it. You know what I'm saying? And in doing so, when women get in line or meet men like that, they tend not to have these issues that a lot of the men on the internet, none of the men on the panel, but a lot of the men on the internet espouse sometimes. It's good women out here. Some of them just don't trust people. They don't feel we display some of the characteristics they need to see in order for them to acquiesce. And honestly,
well, there's a problem because I'm agreeing with you. Like in the NFL, the New York Jets, right? For example, they can't pick a good coach for nothing. So when a coach loses once again and the team sucks, you look at the coach, right? The coach is trash. But who picked the coach? The New York Jets. So I agree. It falls on the man. But the picker of the man is part of the problem. And it's not really on the woman because I have 2 daughters. And I literally was just talking to one of my daughters today, and she was telling me she has a friend. And I'm like, okay, who's his friend? She was like, daddy. He's nobody. I'm like, oh, okay. Because she already knows what I'm about to say. Bring him to me. Because that's what I tell my children. My children, any man goes through me. I got to sit down with them. Okay? It's a rule. She literally said, no, daddy, he's not special. He's just something. Okay. Because the next day, he's going to actually want to be with me or whatever because he don't met you. So no, nobody meets you unless I'm serious about him. He's just my friend. So my kids know they don't pick no man. I pick the man. She brings them to me and it goes through me. So the picker of the man has to be your daddy, your uncle, or some male in your circle. Women don't need to be picking no man because y'all gonna be like the New York Jets out here picking trash man after trash man, and y'all ain't never gonna make it to the playoffs because y'all keep picking these terrible coaches. So the New York Jets and women need a man to pick a man to lead them. If not, you're gonna continue to be looking crazy, just like women and the New York Jets.
So, Mr. Lecko, I wholeheartedly agree with you all the way down to your sentiments about the Jets. But here's where it starts to fall apart for me, right, in terms of rationale. If we've had generations of absent fathers, and earlier you stated that the men who stick around are losers, as women, are we to trust these loser men that have stuck around to pick a good man for us? Like, because if men are not there to teach family, to teach how marriage works, who are these men who are choosing husbands for these women?
The answer to that is you have to go to professional leadership. You have to go to somebody like a pastor because, like I said, most Black families are full of women. Just full of cackling women who just don't know what the hell they're doing, just sitting around gossiping about their own family members. So I understand. None of these women know how to pick a man. So if nobody has a man, nobody has a husband, and the only men that stick around are the loser uncles or whatever, where do you go? I personally do this professionally where a woman can pay me to do a 2-on-1, and I would sit down with a woman and her boyfriend, and I would treat her like I do my daughters, and I would find out if this man is up to par from a leadership standpoint. So that's just one person. But like I said, it could easily be a therapist. You know, y'all do couples counseling and put your man in front of another man. And if he's like, nah, I don't want to do that. Nah, I don't need to talk to nobody. He's out. You get what I'm saying? Your pastor, unless he's one of those creepy pastors or whatever, because some of y'all be having little creepy pastors. But put your boyfriend or your love interest in front of a man that you trust. Do not pick a man on your own, because he is literally, women literally, and this is all of us, but mainly women only pick the man that is on her personal present level of self-worth. And a lot of women feel lower than they actually should be because they ain't went to therapy or nothing themselves. Then they go find a man that they can mother, or that isn't judgmental or isn't too masculine, because women seek control when they're heavily traumatized. Because a lot of y'all have had the same sentiment. Women operate out of fear. I say this all the time. Women don't necessarily have beliefs other than God, you know, stuff like that. But as far as anything past religious beliefs, women don't have beliefs. Women have fears, and they just make choices out of their fears instead of out of judgment. So it's important to go to a man and get him to pick for you.
I agree. I think that it's important to go to a man who's shown his leadership skills, who we know who displays those qualities that we're looking for in a mate, so that he can identify somebody, you know, our potential mate. Coach K, I know, I'm sorry, because I'm are you good? Did you have anything that you wanted to say?
No, I can just wait till the next question because I
Okay.
don't even remember the original question.
Oh, they know the original
No
question.
problem.
Yeah,
No problem at all.
no worries.
Okay. Did anybody else wanted to? I don't even remember it.
Let's hit them super chats if
we
real
have a
quick,
super
and then we can segue. I think it was like maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, let me see. Sorry, I was listening.
And there's a link that JR sent me. I don't know if y'all see it.
So we need to play that now. I don't see it. Where did you put it?
It's in a back chat.
Okay, I'll grab it. All right, who wants to read that? Let me go to the back chat.
Okay. Big Bad Bull, $10. Salute, Brother Tap. Glad to see you on the panel. Please keep it 100 like the other day. Y'all let the brother get his ish off.
Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Bull.
My father. The my
Get your
father.
ish off, Tap.
Okay, let me see. I was trying to see if I had another one. I don't think so.
Yeah, it was another one. It was 2.
Okay. Boom.
Okay, 2 or 3. Okay, there you go. Sign language 101, no accountability. Can some no cupcake zone 199. Quick question. I keep seeing the sign language. What does that mean?
Shame, insult, guilt, and need to be right.
Oh,
It's what happens when men push accountability on women. Typically, it starts with shame and ends at guilt, or insults and ends at shame. But
that's
it
what
happens.
women do to the men,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
Yeah,
vice
y'all
versa,
are blaming
or both?
women, and why don't y'all do this? So something like that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to take it from the. I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna push on it and see what that. I don't know.
I missed the last one that you just had up, Shan. I didn't get to read it.
Okay, let me put that back up. Yeah, this is really weird for me. He usually does all of this for me. Boom shakalaka.
I'll pull it off mine.
See, yeah, you pull it up if you have it.
Okay. No cupcake zone 199. What is the definition of a vow from the women? Coach K, you can answer that one.
I think that it's a commitment, a very strong commitment. If we're still upholding that definition in today's terms, but yeah, it's a commitment.
And I would say is like back in the day when you say your word is your bond. That's what I think about is as well. Like you're making a declaration or statement about something that you are going to, like Coach K said, commit to, and you ensure that you hold true to that. That's my definition.
I want to add another layer to that because I love what Coach K and Mistaken said. You do it publicly, right? You do it not only in front of God, but you do it in front of people who are going to hold you accountable to that as well. It's not a private commitment. It's done publicly so that the people of the community are aware of the commitment that you're making.
That was profound. I never thought about it like that. That's profound. Yeah.
That's why people say to get, the purpose of marriage over just, you and I both know we're going to be together for a long time, but marriage adds that additional layer of accountability, for instance.
So, well, I'm just trying to see. I'm just gonna go to the next question. I'm gonna skip over what I thought the next question would be, and I'm gonna just.
Can I try to play the video?
Yeah, can you? Do you know how to play it? Can you play it?
Okay, so give me a second. I never did it as a guest,
Me
but
neither. I've never.
So let me see if it works. I need y'all to tell me that y'all can see my screen in 30 seconds.
Okay.
While we waiting for him to get the video up, let's make sure we hit the like button. If you got
Like, you guys, please. I do want to do that one first before I jump the gun, but I don't mind jumping it.
Do y'all see my screen?
No.
No.
Okay, so it's not working. So yeah, I tried, so it doesn't work.
Okay, so basically, I'll just go over some of the questions. The video was, our friend Miss Pearlie, woo woo, the men love her, woo. So some of the points that, some guys. So some of the points that she was making was how marriage does not benefit men. As far as women leaving, and so I was just trying to get your input on that. And she didn't really go into detail. She what she said was that women get paid to leave, and I just wanted to get an idea of what men or people who think that way, what they're thinking when they say women are getting paid to leave.
From the women or from the men?
Either.
I would say from the men's perspective, because I think from what she was saying was that these are the things that men are saying and feel that women divorce or they leave because there is an incentive to leave the relationship.
Well, the problem I have with Pearly things is she's just throwing out stuff that she has heard. There's no experience. She's just like, yo, this is the reason why men are doing this. Okay, so what do we do about it? So I think that's the biggest problem. We got to stop just throwing out random shit so we can sound right. Men benefit from marriage just like women benefit from marriage. Is it true that women get paid to incentivize to leave? Yeah.
But how? True. Can you elaborate on that? Like, how are women?
Well, you get to take half our stuff.
No, you can't.
If me and you have a baby together,
not a baby. We're talking about marriage because you don't have to have a baby in a marriage.
Children and marriage go hand in hand.
Not necessarily.
Most likely, nobody's getting married without children. So
what I'm saying to you is, but you cannot have a marriage.
Let me say this. In 90% of the cases, a divorce is going to be the man having to pay child support to the woman, and it's good possibility he's going to have to pay alimony for a couple years to the woman. And it's a possibility that he's going to have to split half of whatever it is that he built with the woman. So since she has custody of the child, she's going to get the majority of the financial benefits that the man created along with the woman.
Okay,
I don't disagree, but if the role of a man is to be a provider, wouldn't that be a given?
Well, not when we ain't together no more. Why I got to provide for a woman I ain't with no more? And to a certain degree,
you just put children in the mix. So if she's still what you put children in the mix.
Well, I said three different things. I said child support, alimony,
Right.
and then half of his shit. It's three
Well,
things.
It wouldn't just be half of your stuff, because if you all were together while you acquired it, it would belong to the marriage.
Not
At the end
really.
of the day,
It
you know,
depends
when we talk about marriage, we talk about two people coming together that have to fulfill their own roles. And at the end of the day, if the woman is fulfilling her role and a man is fulfilling his, just because his role is more based on finances and her role is more based on the home, doesn't mean that those roles don't have equitable rights. And
Well, think about this then. From what you just said, if a woman's value is the home and a man's value is the finances, the woman gets the home and the finances in the divorce.
So let me just say this.
Think about that.
We did a lot
She
of
has a
research.
home and the finances in the divorce.
Let me just say this, because both Mistaken and I did a lot of research on this. I mean, state after state, and this is all wrong. Okay, what you guys are referring to is an high value man, which we all agree is a small percentage of men. I don't know if you're one, and maybe that's you, and that's the reason why you're talking on it. But we can't sit in one sentence and say, "Oh, these women are fighting for these few guys," but then we put everybody like they're all one. You understand? At the end of the day, in most households, women are also financially given to that household. So when you say dividing into half, more than likely she's put in half of hers, half of his, because she's paying bills as well. And so it's only fair that you split it down the middle.
That's not always
along
the
with
case.
alimony, along with child support.
Listen, no. First
Because
of all,
even if you take out the half, it's still alimony and child support.
no, it's not.
Majority.
Most people do not. A small percentage of people who are married to men who have, if you go for the classic alimony is classically given to people who stayed at home and he went out to work. If they take both incomes in consideration, he has to make a substantial amount more than she makes. And not only that, it has to be proven that she's not able to make any money. For example, if he marries a pharmacist and he tells her she has to stay at home, but she is a pharmacist, the court is going to take in consideration the money that she is able to make on her own. So this whole, and this is recent, we have dug into it because we're trying to figure out where you guys are coming with this information from. That's not how alimony works. The classic situation with alimony is if the man is the breadwinner and this woman does not have a job, is to protect her. But let's just be real. In most households, women are financially bringing money into the household as well as the man. So it is only right, if you're both paying bills, to split it down the middle. And that's where the half comes from.
So check this out. This is the reason why I think just pearly things need to sit down somewhere, because the way you broke that down, that I like what you just said. I learned something myself.
And let me just say this. Let me
Hold
just
on, one more thing.
Okay.
So this is what I'm saying. We men or women, we can't be running around on YouTube talking about giving out blanket statements saying that women are paid to leave and men shouldn't get married and all this other stuff. That's why we had to have these conversations, because like I said, I started this conversation off with her saying that she don't know what the hell she's talking about involving this because she ain't never been there. So I agree with you.
And that's the other thing too. Is when you look at the average income, we talk about this a lot about the average income for men and women. Based on that average income, statistics will show you that more than likely you're not going to be paying alimony to someone when the average income is 40. Is it 47 now? $47,000. You're not going to be paying alimony to anybody with that kind of money. Typically, you have to be in a higher bracket that they're considering in regards to who's going to be responsible for paying any kind of spousal support at that point. So when we keep hearing being incentivized to leave, I think Pearlie has a different perspective because she comes from a different bracket. So in that bracket that may be her experience in terms of who she has been around. But for the average person, they are not going to be doing that. In fact, it was saying most people will not get alimony.
And Black women, especially, the percentage is super small.
Well,
but go ahead.
Can I speak?
Go
Can
ahead.
I speak?
Yes.
Let me talk from experience. So yes, women did get paid to leave. My ex-wife got paid to leave.
How did she get paid? What was it
Let me
called?
explain. So I had to pay her a certain amount of money to buy her out of my house.
Right, because you're dividing
That's just a start.
That's okay. That's different, bro. Okay.
She got to keep the other home we had together. I didn't get nothing from it. She got to keep that.
So this is
let me finish. Let me finish. I had to. She's getting 5 years. The first 5 years of my pension, of my retirement. She gets that. That's paid. She got half of whatever of the amount of money I had in my 401k, my 457, and my 457 Roth. Correct. She got all of that. I had to cut her a check that day at the mediation. I had to cut her a check, and I had to bring my statements in, and then they took it out of my account because if I took it out, I would get penalized.
So let me just say this. So
she got paid. That's not included.
Hold on, let them finish.
That's not included the child support that I had to pay $635 a month for child support for one child. Not for multiple, but for one child. That's what I had to pay. So she got paid. She got a healthy settlement.
So
what state you in, Hank?
No, it's not about so let me ask you a question.
This is in Kentucky. I don't know about no other state, but in Kentucky, that's what happened.
So this is all situational. I don't know.
Arkansas too, bro.
This is all. This is the problem. Nobody wants to tell the whole situation. Okay. One, I don't know what her income is in compared to his income. And most
made more at the time.
She made more at the time. He's right there. Just ask him a question.
More money than me. She was an HR manager. She made more money in 2016. Now, of course, I make more money than her now. But 2016 we was already divorced, so it doesn't matter now. But in 2016, she made more than I did.
I think
what you got to say now, Shan?
Situations like that happen. I think what Kante was saying is that it's just not the majority. Like when you look at the majority of these situations, obviously, Hank, to your point, it does happen.
But he was making less money. How was that?
That's not.
If a man is making less than a woman, that would be like the typical man would actually get screwed over.
There's a calculation.
So let me just say this. I understand what Hank's saying that happened to him. But he needs an attorney because that's not the law in Kentucky.
I had an attorney.
So,
that is.
Come on, Shan, don't do the man like that.
I'm just telling you. When I look at, when
he went through it, you trying to dismiss the man's experience.
No, I don't think Shane's trying to do that, right? I think sometimes. And Hank,
that's his experience. Y'all talking over the man and his experience.
Give me 1 second, because I didn't interrupt.
Can y'all let the man talk?
Like I didn't.
And it's not just his experience. It's not just his experience.
So, but hang on, because here's what I'm trying to get out, right? Hank, I empathize with your experience. I get it. I'm not trying to dismiss that at all. I don't believe that Shan is either, right? But from what I'm hearing of the research that Shan and Mistaken have done, is that you are the exception to the rule, right? It's not. It's not.
We're just trying to find out how.
Yeah, we need.
He's the exception to the rule.
Well, that's handled in litigation. None of us are. I mean, none of us here on this panel. I mean, at least speaking for myself.
Wait. There is one person on this panel, Hank. If everybody was to be quiet and let Hank explain, because he was the one that was actually involved in this situation. He's the only person on here that can actually explain. Hank
is asking how as well.
But can Hank actually explain his experience? Because he's the only one up here who can. That's all I'm saying. Hank.
So like I said, Chantel, I had a lawyer. So to sit there and say I didn't have a lawyer, now you making it
say that. I didn't say. I said
you sit there and say you need to get a better.
Talk about his experience without y'all just interrupting him.
Okay, so let me just tell you how I do things. Okay, I don't put my life in somebody else's hand. I research things for myself because lawyers are crooked as well. You understand? The law is the law. Listen, the law is the law. It's period. It's in stone. So if you go and the law is on your side, and it clearly states right here that she has to prove that she is not, their incomes are imbalanced. That's what the Kentucky law states, okay? And both incomes, when it comes to spousal support, there are women paying spousal support.
But nobody said anything about paying.
I just have one question. Can we hear the man out?
Spouse support.
Listen, I'm not
Can
saying
we just hear the man out? That's all we're saying.
we heard his situation.
No, you
He's
didn't.
not done.
You thinking I said something about spouse? I didn't have to pay spouse.
Let him finish.
No, I said I had to pay child support. That's what I had to pay $630 in child support. $630 every. Well, that's what it totaled up to every month. I had to pay a certain amount out to buy out of my house, right? I also had to pay. She got five for the first 5 years since we've been married over 10 years or more. She's entitled to 5 years of my retirement. I had to give her a half of what I had in my 401k, my 457, and my 457 Roth. She was entitled to that. She was entitled to half of what I had in my savings. I had to give her all of that. She got to keep the other house we had. I didn't get a portion of that. That would even offset. Matter of fact,
and she made more money than him.
1975 Chevy Impala. I paid $2,100. It was a piece of shit before I got it restored. They classified it under a classic car, and they said the value was like $30,000. I paid $2,100 for that car. It wasn't value for those $30,000. But guess what?
It sounds like you were more like financially responsible than she was. Did she not have like as many assets and as much in savings as you did, like at the time of the divorce? Because it sounds like everything was like in your name. You had quite a lump sum, like in your
because I invest well.
It kind of sounds like she had nothing.
Because I invest well. I put more money. I was aggressive. I put more money in my retirement and my 401k. Yes, I did all that. Was I more than her? Yes. But
that is sad. This man spent all this time investing into his future just to pee it all away.
So let me ask you a question. So he is in it. They call
just piss in the wind.
Property. So basically, I see what he's saying, and I'm so sorry that happened to you. But when we're talking about, sir, but Mr. Let Go, how many of your friends are paying alimony?
Well, no, what I was going to say,
my friends are still married.
From his situation, just at the fact that he said that the other house that she got it, like, I don't know, based on what he was saying, but to me right there, that shows that that's not the average situation. Average people are not owning multiple homes. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to take away the fact that he had to give that up. I think the fair thing would have been that he gets one and she gets one. If you want to be fair, if they had multiple homes, that should have been split down the middle. He gets one home, she gets one home. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the details of it.
Or
but
Carly thinks was on to something.
They all said it because that's why I didn't have to pay as much of a buyout. That's what they did. So my buyout wasn't as much. It probably would have been 3 times as much as it would have been if.
Did you have a prenup?
So
did you have a prenup?
No.
Just speaking
the answer to all of this, get a damn prenup, so you ain't got to give up half your shit, man.
Now, speaking
so,
of personal,
hell, if I get married and I don't get no damn prenup.
Speaking to personal experience, like what Hank said actually sounds very similar to what my dad complained about when my mom and him got divorced. But I mean, I don't know how long Hank was married, but my parents were married for 21 years before they got divorced. So they started at the bottom, literally, and worked their way to 21 years. So everything that was established in that marriage was contributed by both of them. And in terms of him making more, or they didn't, they made pretty much around the same. She would get a raise and she would make a little more, and then his raise would come behind hers, and then he would be, a few, $100 more than her or something like that. So the contribution to the marriage was pretty much equal in terms of finances. When they got married, my dad got upset that he had to buy her out. She wanted to sell the house. She's like, I'm okay. Let's, leave the house. We go our own separate ways. He wanted to keep the house. So in order for him to keep the house, he had to buy her out and give her portion of it. she was also entitled to some of his 401k. It just so happened that, both of them worked at, IBM at the time. And, what she had versus what he just had to pay the difference to make that equal. So I don't know if he had 50,000 in there, she had, 20 or whatever. He just had to pay the difference so that they would have, it would be split down the middle. So mostly from just the research, like I said, you have outliers in everything. That's why you have like that bell curve. But what it was saying for most people, you have states that are really trying to look at and move towards doing that, 50-50, when they're able to. Now, if a husband or a wife is making a significant amount or a significant difference, then you are going to be required to, pay that difference depending on what it is. But again, there are outliers. And I think what happens a lot of times, like if I was to hear Hink's situation without doing any research at all, I would just be like, how most of you men feel like, yo, that's effed up. And that shouldn't happen. And women are getting incentives to leave. If she's going to end up with, a payout plus a house plus pension, that sounds gravy. You know what I'm saying? I would totally understand why most men feel like that. But when I actually put facts over feelings and just look at what's written, that's not necessarily fall within the average, outcome. And that's the only point that I want to make. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but that's not typically the situation.
But
So I
what
wanted
y'all
to
would just
say,
sit there saying it was an anomaly or whatever, but you just
No.
proved it. Don't
Exactly.
That's what y'all
Right,
said.
but what
Y'all
she
saying that,
said,
but now mistake just sit there and prove. So there's another one.
No,
Hey,
but that wasn't, no, my
being a
point
father
with
is not
that,
the only story out there.
no, my point with
Right.
that is she deserved half. They were married
Oh.
21 years. Both of them built from the bottom together. Both of them contributed. They weren't making a significant amount of difference in income,
Yeah, that makes
probably
sense.
about $100 difference
Yeah, that makes
between the
sense.
two. So it should have been split
But
down
again,
the middle,
y'all
period.
sit there saying that they don't get paid to leave. That's what y'all was saying. Women don't get paid to leave. And I just sit there and prove that women do get paid to leave. Your father is an example of somebody now you said he's entitled. Okay, he's entitled. But she still got paid to leave.
How did she get paid when that was her money? That was
That
her
wasn't her money in his situation.
right.
In
That was
your
her money.
situation, it was her money.
That
we're
was her money. So she didn't get paid to leave. That was her money. She contributed to the house that they bought. They bought that house together. He did not want to sell it.
She
He
didn't
could have
contribute to
gotten
that pension.
she was. She
How
was
did she
entitled
contribute to his work pension?
because, like I
If he
said,
did the work.
In other words, if we marry one of these damn women, two things: one, we got to get a prenup, and two, we got to make sure they saving money. Because if we saving all our damn money, and then we turn around and get a divorce 10 years later, and we find out she ain't saved nothing, she gonna take half of the damn shit we've been trying to save.
no,
Can
and
I
here's
share
why.
information?
So,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
so here's why, right? Because we talk about how those are the only two options. However, people don't do enough research into these situations. There's such thing as post-nuptial agreements. Most people are not coming into a marriage where one person is the only holder of assets. Typically, what's happening is that they're building those assets together. A post-nuptial agreement exists for that reason, that while we're in the marriage, we're going to talk about worst case scenario. If we divorce, this is how we're going to agree that we're going to split the assets. And
That's
yet,
updated
however,
every year, right? Or every 5 years, the post.
that's up to you. You get to
Okay.
decide how often that gets amended, right? And so if we're not having these conversations, people and men are the ones who are screaming the loudest, rightfully so, because they're the ones who are being stripped of their resources going into that. But let's have that conversation of, hey, if you want to disincentivize women from leaving for financial gain, let's protect ourselves as men and start taking a look at what post-nuptial agreements look like. Once we've
I
attained
love
these
that.
assets, what's fair to you and what's fair to me? Should we decide that we no longer work as a family?
All right, Marcus.
First, I want to say, Hank, man, I empathize with you all the way. And if anybody ever asks why Hank angry again on any panels, if this man don't got the most reason ever to be mad about everything, bro, that's man. And second, when it comes to what was it, postnuptials and prenuptials, so I think lead attorney was talking about this the other day, and he was saying that, pardon me if I'm wrong, and somebody can correct me if I'm, because I'm not in this field, but some of the prenuptials can be looked at as being signed under duress, so they won't hold weight like a postnuptial. So if you get married after that, you still, even if you didn't try and get the prenup, that probably or might be able to get thrown out. So a postnuptial is that, because if she marrying you for love, she shouldn't have no problem signing a postnuptial. You know, it's part of the many things that's difficult that we have to have in conversations. Like, I know y'all was talking earlier about like men's sexual nature, right, Mr. Lego? And you were saying men want to have multiple women and all these things. Your marriage is like a custom outfit. It's whatever you put on. So you design that exactly how you need it to be. Just be honest with people. You know what I'm saying? Tell them what you want. Like, hey, I might not be able to just be monogamous. She might like girls too. You might be able to work a situation out like that and y'all stay on the same board. But if you go in pretending to be somebody that you're not, bro, it's gonna end up with half your shit gone and sitting here with my heart bleeding out for you. Damn, damn.
And let me say this, because I think this is important.
Let me say this real fast, and I'll let you go, Mr. Let go. I want you. I'm sorry if I seem insensitive to you, Hank. I know how I see how that.
Yes, you were very insensitive. Cut that
No,
man
I just
off.
wanted to. No. I just want us to, because it gets lost in the hate. It gets lost in the bigger scheme, Grant, and we'll talk about that in a second, and you'll see why I'm saying that. But and let me just say this too, while we're talking about the men. I want you to know this is not gender specific. So if you're a woman doing a damn thing and you married to a man who's not, you're not excused from this. This is about the income. So you could be the baller, and a lot of us are the baller in a relationship. And guess what? He gonna come for it. Okay, he can legally come for it, because not in one addendum did I see that it was only men. Women can go for men. It was straight out, no gender. The person who makes the most money, the other person can come for that person. Period.
Well, real upstanding men, and the men on the panel can correct me. We won't come for it. Like, a real man won't come for your shit. That's not what we do. That's not how we move. Like, once it's over, we like, all right, it's time to rebuild. It's time to do do what we got to do. So most of the time, from my experience, it's the woman coming for what we got. And in most cases, we actually don't have the energy to fight it. So we'll go through the motions for let's call it a couple months. But if that shit's not resolved, we want it resolved as soon as we can get it over so we can get moving. Period. That's just how we do. Let's keep it a buck.
And you know, it's so funny.
I know, like when I was dealing with what I was dealing with, it wasn't even about the money for me. I wasn't even worried about that. It hurt me. Did it set me financially back? Yes. I was more worried about my opportunity to have joint custody for my son. That hurt me more, because I'm going from seeing my child 100% of the time to now 50. And at the time when we was talking and negotiating, it was less than that. I was going back down to 35. You know, every other weekend, 1-2 days during the week. I wasn't going for that.
I could not imagine.
I wasn't going for that. So I fought more about that than I even did about the money. I just said, F this money. I'm going to have joint custody. I don't want this other bullshit. I had to make sure we split that everything out. That means down to holidays. It didn't matter about who's going to claim on taxes. Every other year, I get to claim on taxes. Everything I had to negotiate. But it's making sure I kept joint custody of my son.
Gotcha.
I also want to say, I know we talk about all the negatives about fearing it, but marriage it can be a beautiful thing too. Like,
I agree.
Like, my wife just bought me a double Gouda burger in with the home fries. You know what I'm saying? When the kids go to sleep, she'll be serving it in lingerie. I don't got to worry about a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? When a lot of the stuff I might have got into going outside, man, it's more incentive to stay at home. I don't got to spend money doing a lot of different things that I might have. It's benefits to just having somebody there that you can be quiet with, or you can talk to, that you comfortable with, that you can have sex and don't got to worry about having a baby by somebody and she puts you on actual child support and not being able to raise your kids. I think a lot of the men on the panel would agree with me on this, but men that want to be fathers really, really, really want to be fathers. Like we had cut our arms and legs off to make sure we in our kids' lives. Like the brother just said, he lost half of everything, but I ain't care about that. I just wanted my kids, and I wouldn't want nobody in that situation where you don't have access to your kids. Marriage is one way to provide 100% access to your children.
Absolutely. So let me. Now we're talking about. Oh, for anybody else who didn't get an opportunity to speak, wanted to say anything? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say a couple things real quick. That was beautiful, Marcus. Like I wish there'd be more panels of married people that can just share the small things, because truly I think that's one of like the best things about having such a strong, I mean, I'm technically engaged, but a strong relationship in your marriage. And I wholeheartedly believe in marriage. But I am also surrounded by so many good dads, and I can tell Hink is a great one. And I wanted to share something like interesting that I asked my dad, I'm like, did you pay child support? Blue collar family, by the way. Both him and my mom were probably not making much at all. But instead of paying her child support, he sent us to private schools, which was interesting because it like benefited us. And I mean, they both were making the same, so I don't think it like hurt her or anything like that. And then something that I saw in the chat, which was interesting, was Jonathan said that he knows a woman who is receiving alimony and doesn't want to get remarried because then she'll stop receiving that alimony. I also know someone like that too, who is receiving that and will not marry their partner. So just wanted to share that. That's it.
So is that another example of paying to get to leave?
Well, yes, because
Yeah.
if you're in a situation where you're with, okay, so if you're in a situation and you're with a
I
breadwinner,
said it does happen. This is
yeah. So if you're the guy who's making that money, I think that you should proceed with caution. Absolutely, I think you need to set it up, get a prenup, But we've said it here. An average man is making, how much was it? $47,000. And I get it, the whole pension thing, that absolutely sucks. I have to go back and look at the pension part. But when it comes to the 40, I don't think that that's going to be the same situation. You understand what I'm saying? And even alimony runs out because if I'm not mistaken, I think you get half of the year. So, for example, if she's married to him for 8 years, she only gets 4 at the most, top.
On some occasions, it depends on the state but only few states where some people can get paid like lifetime alimony. But for the vast majority, it is a certain figure that they will use to determine, how much alimony and for how long. But I wanted to kind of say with Marcus, that I agree. Marriage is a wonderful thing, but it takes a lot of work. And I think what happens a lot of times, especially now, that people don't want to put in the work. When things get uncomfortable, they run. And even within a marriage, sometimes people stay married but still run from the marriage instead of leaning into each other when things get rough. I think for women mostly, I have to kind of speak to the fact that I think we are delusional, and I don't believe I'm saying this, but we are delusional when it comes to our expectations for marriage. I think we go in with a mindset of, well, two things. I think men go in with the mindset of not wanting things to change or things not changing, and women go in with the mindset of things wanting to change, right? And so we go in with this idea of, that our husband is supposed to be or going to be every single thing to us. They're going to be our best friend, our homie, you know, the husband, the helpmate, the help me with the housework, the help me with the kids, the pay all my bills for me, just all of these things, my social and emotional support system. We go in with these long expectations, and then when we get in the marriage and it doesn't match up to what we had in our head, the ideal that we have in our head, then we kind of want to leave, because it's not what we anticipated. And part of this research that I was doing, I had to take accountability in terms of me kind of thinking that same way when my husband and I first got together. And the truth is, we were young. Neither one of us knew much, and the expectations that I had were unrealistic for him. I wanted him to make me happy, but it wasn't his job to make me happy. I was supposed to do that on my own. I was already supposed to be whole and happy, and he just adds to that. So I think a lot of times we're looking in our partner to fulfill needs that unmet needs that had occurred before the partner got there. And it's unfortunate because when they don't meet those needs, because that's something that you have to do the work on your own, then we blame the other person for it. And I think that's where we go wrong. But getting to the point where you develop and you mature in that area, when you get married, it is nothing like having a partner that is down for you. It makes me smile. It gets me excited to know how my husband has my back no matter what, and vice versa. I have his back no matter whatever happens, to know that you have that support system like no other. It can't be compared to anything else. And so I think marriage is wonderful, but it is a struggle at times too. But you just have to have that mindset that no matter what, I'm in this for the long haul. And if that's both of y'all's vision,
So,
Miss Taken, can I say something real quick? This is the third total panel I've ever been on with you. Every time you mention your husband, you light up.
yeah.
You absolutely, positively glow, and I love it. I
thank you.
love it.
He does.
That's
I
my
just wanted to
homie.
say that.
That's my homie lover friend.
So I have a question. Anybody else wanted to answer to
Shout
give
out to
his.
R. Kelly.
Okay. Dang, R. Kelly, that's
Hold on, Tan has something. Tan has something.
Okay, go
Look,
ahead.
we strayed so far away. I'm just smiling in the benefits, the beauty of marriage, because I'm huge proponent of marriage as well. And I'll just say this, it goes back to what I was saying when I was like signing on to what this is Inez was saying about the value of marriage. It goes back to that. All those things that Marcus and Mistaken were just saying, that's what I meant when I said the value of marriage. It's not necessarily for the children. It's two people can be married and you can look at that person as your best friend, your support system, the person you can cook for the wife or for the man. You have somebody sit down and eat dinner with. You have somebody to sit down and watch shows with. If they're really your best friend, they could not even like football, but they're going to sit there and do it because you like football. And they're going to sit there and do it just to be in your company and just to be in your presence, and vice versa. A man may not like chick flicks, but they'll watch, the chick flick with their wife because they just want to be with her. They just want to be in her presence. So those are the small things, the value in marriage that, speaking of. Okay, so the article that I wanted to share.
And something else I want to point out real quick. I want to just real quick.
Hold on, she's not.
I know. I'm
done,
gonna let her go again. But what I just noticed with all 5 of the ladies, when you're talking about the positivity of marriage, all 5 straight across light up. Tan was just talking, and Inez is like, oh. And Shannon's like, oh. Coach K is like, oh. It's just funny to me. It's just funny to me. I love it. Go ahead, Miss Tan.
So I think Mr. Let Go made a statement also about Miss Pearl or somebody's videos or whatever they were saying. I've not seen it, so I can't speak to that. But I do want to say it's dangerous when we throw around random statements.
Right,
It,
right,
it
right,
can be
right.
dangerous.
Yeah.
So I do want to just put some factual context around women get paid to leave. I believe that's being referred to alimony, but do want to make sure we put some factual information surrounding that as well. And per this article, it says alimony can last for a short time or a long time. The court usually awards alimony only when a long-term marriage ends. One person must show a need for support, while the other person must have the ability to pay. So I did want to just put context around. More than likely, when a woman or a man gets alimony, you have to be married for a certain period of time. In many states, it's 10 years as the minimum, but the time frame does depend on state by state. So instead of just throwing around those loose statements, there is some context and some rigor around the amount of time. You can't just be married for a year or two and think you're going to walk away banking. So I did just want to put some context around that also.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
gotta say when it comes to the divorce thing. So plan A is to make the relationship work. Plan B is
Yes.
to see plan A, and plan C is to see plan B. Just make that shit work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll
So,
share
And
one other.
okay, go
and
ahead.
I don't know if I'm stupid or not, but I want to get remarried 1000%. I was married before, and
What?
yeah, I would love to get married again. So there's pitfalls to marriage. It sucks when there's a divorce and all that stuff, like what Hink was saying or whatever. But I do want to get married again. But I'm getting a goddamn prenup, and
Post
we ain't having no
I promote prenups. I
Post
promote
up and
we're
post
not
up
having
there.
no big ass wedding because of a lot of the money is going to have to pay for her lawyer and me a lawyer. So can't nobody say I signed this prenup out of the rest. Nope. We're going to take her temperature. We're going to check her blood. We're going to make sure she ain't been drinking. She going to have her hand on the Bible, and she going to sign that goddamn prenup, and we're going to keep it moving in.
I
And
love
whatever
it.
we got left, we do the wedding with. But that's the number one priority.
I agree. I listen. You'll never sit here and say, I tell Mistaken that all the time. Like, look, if my guy comes and he wants me to sign a prenup, well, you want me to sign it, baby?
Well,
That's
my-
just me though.
My cousins, my auntie, my uncle, most of the people in my family got married, right? And it's damn near embarrassing to bring a girlfriend long term around, and then somebody can hit up with the, oh no, we only talking about what the wives are saying right now. That whole, they never done that. I regret, like, or to take it to a parent teacher conference, and then you know what I'm saying, they call her and the child a different name, or business meetings, and you introduce her as, oh, this is my long term girlfriend or somebody else's wife. That might not mean nothing to, if you don't really understand what I'm saying, but it,
I know what you mean.
yeah,
It definitely has a little status to it. It's
yeah.
a difference of
But you know
class.
something, Mark, you said it's common now. Unfortunately, it's common.
They'll say my
I
partner.
mean, huh?
They'll say the word my partner, in opposed to my wife or my husband.
Well, some people call their wives their partner. I
That
don't
always makes
believe
me
in
nervous.
that, but I don't
I
really
have a question
call
though,
my wife my
Yeah.
partner. But
so I have a question because what we're talking about, what I saw in the stats as well is people who tend to do well are usually open to marriage. It's usually the people who aren't financially well off who are struggling to get on the board with being married. Why do you think that is?
you would think it'd be just the opposite.
You would think it would be the opposite.
No, it makes sense to me that it is the way that it is. Again, going back to what I said in the beginning of understanding the value of marriage. When you understand the value of marriage, you treat it as the covenant that it is. You understand the status that it holds. You understand the importance that it is, not only to the people within that family, but when we talk about community, you can only really build community within marriages. Like that's really how that works, all the way back to what Mr. Let Go was talking about having another man vet a man that a woman is going to marry. That happens in community, and that's all under the guise of the foundation of marriage. Now, people who are well off understand that because they want to preserve not only what they have, but they understand legacy and creating other families that their children, their grandchildren, their great grandchildren will be able to have access to. That requires community. So you uphold marriage for that. Now, people who don't really care or don't understand legacy or lack the value of what marriage is, well, I could just sleep around. I could just have multiple girlfriends. I could stay with the same woman for 20 years and never get married and sign the document because we look at it as a legality and a contract and not the institution of marriage and what that holds. So to me, it's super obvious that people who are well off want to keep that up and that people who aren't, they just, it is what it is.
What's interesting when I was listening to Mr. Let Go talking is I know he has a business, and even starting a business is a risk. I mean, there's a chance that actually a very good chance, I think higher rate of it not working than marriage, to be honest. But there's still a chance that it won't work, but we do it anyway, which is interesting. I'm not saying though,
You
again,
lose money.
you can't control other people. You can't control your spouse at the end of the day if they want to leave. And I don't agree with no fault divorce, by the way. But I think really great things take a lot of work, but they take commitment. And there's a lot of fear around that. But I think that's what makes it worth it, at the end of the day.
I like that. That's great. Anybody else wanted to add on to that? Anybody? So go ahead. Go ahead, Tam.
I just think that it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Most people, I'm being presumptuous. Most people that don't have a lot of money likely didn't come from two-parent households, likely don't know what a marriage is, what a husband is, what a wife is, and don't want to do it. And the second part of that is those men and women are typically, and boys and girls are typically passed around each other. And like nobody wants to marry, a man doesn't want to be known as marrying the hoe. And most women don't want to be known as marrying, I don't know what y'all call it, but the guy that fucks anything, right?
Mhm.
So I just think that there are several layers to it. People with resources have resources to things like prenups, postnups, and all the other shit that we've been talking about.
I,
Just
I,
my opinion.
I will say this. So I got two friends I'm thinking of specifically. They got over 100 million, right? One of the ones with that's 100 plus million. He's married, extremely happy. The other one, 100 plus million, and honestly, he would trade with me right now. Just knowing, like, damn, I can't go too far, but it seems that there's a correlation between being wealthy and being able, if you want a family, to be married. Because the other people that are also millionaires that I know, all of them for the most part got married too. Now they got specific type of relationships. Like I say, it's custom made for whatever designer you want to wear, but they pretty happy. I'm not gonna hold you. And the ones that are single, some of them are happy, but if they have kids, most of the time they be miserable.
Mhm.
It's just something about having all the money in the world where you can hire a private jet, but you still don't got the opportunity to see your kids at 2 p.m.
Mhm.
You gotta wait till the weekend.
Well, didn't Shaq say something about that? Like when he had talked about his divorce from Shawnee, that he was, he said that it was his fault, but he was saying too that it's nothing like walking around this mansion. I have all of this, and I would come home to an empty house, after having the house filled with his family. And so and even my dad, he said something similar about, losing his family and stuff like that. So like you said, all you can have all the money in the world, but that will not replace what we were designed as humans. We're communal, like we're supposed to be in relation with one another. So when you don't have that, and then marriage just takes it to a deeper level of that, you literally are supposed to become one. And when you lose your other half, it is hard. It's hard on men and women when that happens. So I agree, like divorce should, you know, be your last ditch after you. I think there should be a process that you have to go through before you can even get a divorce. And I think that they moved away from that. I think at one point in time there was like you had to stay before you could actually divorce. You couldn't divorce until after you've stayed a year after, something like that.
It's still like that in North Carolina, actually.
Okay. And I think it should definitely go back to that, but I think it should be specific steps that you have to take before you can get to that point. Just like before you, I think before you get married, there should be specific things that you have to do before you can say I do. You shouldn't just be able to drive, you know, to wherever and, you know, get married. I think it should be a process. You have to do these things, have to be checked off before you can go to the altar. And then once you're in it, you have to work your way out of it. It should be specific things that you have to do before you can get out. Because I think a lot of times, because it's so accessible and easy to get divorced, like you could get a divorce, a non-contested divorce for like $500. I'll be seeing the billboards for that. So I think when you're forced to try to fix things and have the tools to look at where you've gone wrong, because a lot of times we do the blame game. Like I see it in just in relation when we're on these panels, the women are blaming men, the men are blaming women, and you know, but I know my husband and I, we've been to therapy, you know, a few times, just because when you have ebbs and flows in marriage, and because we wanted our marriage to work and we didn't have the tools, it was like, okay, well, let's go somewhere where we can find those tools to work through our issues. And we did that. It helped us develop a better communication style, and you know, and we flourish. But it was something that I think Tan said, I'm not about the order of things. And I think women are definitely at fault for this in a marriage, is that they do have a tendency to put their children first. And I don't know if it's just something natural, like because you know you have a kid that can't do anything for themselves. So you like, I have to take care of them, you know. But it was a transition for my husband and I. Like when I met him, he already had a daughter. Well, that's my daughter. She lived with us. So he already, you know, had a daughter. So we never had a point in our relationship where it was just him and I. It was kids from the jump street. But then our kids left home. And it was a whole new redefining of what our marriage was going to be, because we neglected each other, because the kids became first on both our ends. You know, the kids became first. And so now it's just like, oh, who are you? You know, it was like getting to know each other all over again in a different way. And it's very important to make sure that you're not neglecting each other within a marriage when you have children. You have to make you guys a priority.
So I totally agree with that, and I think mistaken the concept of it not being modeling, right? Like if you're coming from a single parent household, you're not able to see what it looks like to put your partner first, because that opportunity just doesn't exist. And I think kind of taking it even a step further, when we're talking about how many divorces are initiated by women, I think a lot of the times we don't talk about the statistic that's floating around out there about how more than 50% of those women are regretting that divorce.
Yep.
And so I don't know that this trend is going to continue with that much regret that's sitting out there. I think people are going to opt for couples counseling, whether that's premarital or you know, throughout the marriage when things are still good, or even as a last ditch effort, right? I think with that much regret, with that many women out there who have initiated divorce, that over half of them are saying that was the wrong decision to make. I don't know that this trend is going to continue to move upward.
Well, it does say, I saw some stats that it said that the divorce is on the decline, which is good, but the problem is so is marriage. So marriage is on the decline and so is divorce.
And just
I mean,
one last thing I want to add, and I don't know if anybody touched on it. I'm sorry if someone has, but back to Shan's question, it was why do people of means get married at a higher clip? Because most of us understand legacy. That is a huge thing for a man, is legacy preservations. And typically in that world, you don't want to be the one, you don't want to be the single man, and two, you don't want to be a baby daddy. So you typically will get married to to have your legacy and keep that status. Just
you
wanted to point
know,
that
it's
out.
you brought up that, and I thought to myself, people don't, how you can go to the family reunion and you have the grandpa, the grandma. Nobody wants that position anymore, where you have all of your kids up under you, and then you have the grandma and the grandpa. It's just gonna be
The patriarch and matriarch of that whole, yes.
that's just gone. It's
And
just
I wanna
laughing in a sad kind of way. But go ahead.
I wanna add that to my own family dynamic, and me and my future wife be the grandma and grandpa of my family. So that's what I'm looking to do, because I'm the patriarch of my family now, and my daughter's husband is the heir to that when something happens to me. So I have officially taken over our family, where it's no longer a 90% women matriarchal dynamic. So, and that is the thing that I would like to do whatever I can to add to other families, because we got to get these damn women out of control of these black families, because we are screwed. So we got to get these men back in a place where we can actually go back to running our families, because if not, we all are screwed.
And it's so funny that you said that, because that goes into my next question. What do you think? Do you think we're choosing money over family in, in
1000%.
the grand scheme
Yeah.
of things? Because I feel
Women are
like,
literally choosing money over family. That's
yeah,
the actual thing.
because I feel like, for our community, nobody else is having this issue with marriage. Like they're going to lose the same things we lose, but for whatever
Black
reason.
women worship money. Other races don't worship money. They worship their men. Black women worship money.
So that's not. I know a lot of white people who are on their second marriage.
Mhm.
I see nothing but
Keyword second
chaos.
marriage though, because
So,
they'll
so
go
go
back to a
and Coach
man.
K. That's her.
No, I'm saying, like, I mean, all around me, and of course it's anecdotal, and I'd have to look up the stats, and I will in a second, but I don't think I'm white, so I'm speaking for the white community, I guess, but they're not so hot. Like, I know a lot of times, we just see what we know, but like, it's not good. I think it's like
But
a
aren't y'all
Western
programmed to
problem.
go back and get married again, instead of just being, oh, I'm single. Look at me, I'm single.
Oh,
You're
well,
gonna
they're
go find another husband,
right.
even if you do leave your marriage, right?
I did see that there was a statistic that 54% of divorced women do not want to remarry. So I think most women don't want to at all, but
But
I don't know. I'm gonna look it
to
up
speak
though.
to your point, Mr. Let Go, you just said, well, you'll go back and get married again, but that's because they typically have options because the men are marriage minded. So in a black community, if you're not marriage minded, it's hard to even find the first husband,
I
let
think the men
alone.
are more marriage minded than the women, though. And that's what we've been saying for the last hour. The women are the ones that are either afraid of marriage
No,
or
the
unable
stats
to
don't support that
stay
though.
in a marriage.
It doesn't support that.
No,
And let
the
me ask you
stats
a
don't
question.
support that.
So with that being said, because I've heard this as well, black men have options. All of these groups of women want you. So, and I believe that because we have the best men. I like to say, sorry, Coach K, but what I'm saying is, with all of these options, and you have the lowest, even under black women, the lowest marriage rate. So it's not making sense. So okay, you're saying black women aren't marriage material, then go to the other options that you say that you have and make wives out of them, but that's not happening.
No, we want black women, and we got our options, but at the same time, the majority of us still want to get married. We just can't find nobody that's sane enough to marry or sane enough to stay in the marriage with us.
So you're saying there's not one person that's a placeholder that men have had as their life as a placeholder was that great woman that they just did not want to marry.
Meaning what? Can you explain? What do you mean exactly?
So I've heard from the grapevine, and I listen to black man panels, and they always talk about that one girl who they let get away, like, yeah, I wasn't ready. Or they have that person who goes to bat for them. Because I don't know many men, certain, who don't have that one chick who's going to go to bat for you. Have you never experienced that before? Like a woman just going, like, no matter what you need, she's going to be there to cater to you.
Yeah, I married her.
Right. So that's the only one that you've ever had.
I would have married the next one. I don't know.
Let's read the super chats.
Okay,
but I'll talk to y'all later. I gotta head out.
Bye, Mr. Lego. Thank you for gracing us with your
presence.
I was gonna say presence.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Okay, see you later. Now, okay, let me do this one. Then we go to Jonathan's. But go ahead.
Okay, Cash. I'm sorry, EK, however you pronounce it. I apologize. 279. How many women make more than their husbands? Stop.
A lot.
It's a few. It's changing. The stats are changing. Overall, men do typically make more than women in general, but it's starting to change in terms of the increase of women that are starting to make more than their husbands.
Definitely not the majority, but a lot.
Yeah. Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan, $10. Wealthy men don't get married for community. They get married for status. Being a married man and being perceived as a family man brings you status once you get to a certain socioeconomic level.
Agreed.
I want to address that. How do you gain socioeconomic status if there's no community to give you that? Like, so to me, that doesn't add up, right? You do it because the community gives you that. You have to have community to be given the socio part of that socioeconomic status.
Right in the corporate world, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
but that's still a community, what she's saying. But I get
the sense of community. Yeah.
Wealthy men, though.
But he's correct. He's absolutely correct.
So one of the things that companies or corporations tend, or business partners even tend to think about married men is it shows a level of stability that's not in younger men that or single men rather, and that the risk that you're willing to take that could be destructive, it lowers that chance. So it's kind of like pre-selection in the business world. When you know that this man has this and this and this, he's been able to obtain a family, withhold the family, sustain the family, and those are attributes that can be transferable. Similar like how some corporations will recruit sports players because of some of the things that you go through.
And unfortunately, I think for women, it's the opposite effect, because then they see that as a liability because they're going to have to take off. They're going to start having children. They're not going to, be as committed to the job because the family is going to come first. So, yeah.
Let's give a salute to thank you,
Harrison. Yeah, Harrison Davis, $9.99. Salute. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. What were you about to say?
Yeah, so like I get that aspect, but when we're talking about wealthy people, women who are either wealthy or marrying into wealth are more than willing to make that sacrifice. But even when we're talking about these business engagements, typically, right? And obviously there's exceptions to the rules, and I hate that I even have to say that, but we're on the internet where we have to say those things. Typically you do business with people that you know, or people who know them. You need to have a certain reputation to do business with people. Regardless of if you're family man or not, people aren't willing to put their livelihood at stake with people that there's no accountability. You can't hold somebody accountable to. So this idea that wealthy men are not getting married for community, you have to. You have to. Because if you don't, you're not marrying into a family that has reputation. You're not building a reputation around other people that are business owners. Like, even to be recognized in the business world, there needs to be some sort of affiliation to be recognized as a family man, right? So there's still community. Even within business, the most successful business owners or people who run companies, whether they're CEOs, CFOs, CIOs, whatever, that network is so significantly tight that most of those people know each other. And if being married didn't mean anything in community, then those men would not see value in it, right? Because those circles are so close knit. It's that pressure from your peers that are doing business that you're feeling that person. It still goes down to community, even down to when you have children. Who are those children going to marry? You're not going to want your child to give away their wealth to somebody who isn't part of that community. That idea of elitism, right? It still boils down to community, and marriage is the fundamental tenet of community.
Another side of it too is, we're talking about fear. I think there's fear also, maybe for, and I'm not going to speak for these men, but I'm imagining what their image is going to look like if they do not stay married, and if there's some type of scandal, which is like divorce, you know what I mean? That's a fear that they have too. But obviously, staying married, it's going to look, if nothing else, it's going to look better. So.
Okay, so I think this is a good question that Jonathan JB stated. It's not this. It was something else. Mary, can you?
Correct, Marcus. Married men have more to lose and are less of a flight risk.
I don't agree with that. I do think that they're less of a flight risk when it comes to money. They value money so much. But if we preach that women lose value by kids, if we preach that women lose value by all these things that guys say, her age, she loses a lot. She's lost that time. Now she can't get that guy that she used to get. She's used goods, as you guys call it. You guys can always get your money back up. She can't get that time. She can't buy back that time. So I don't agree with. I mean, I agree that men do lose a lot, but I also agree that women lose a lot as well.
Now, we had talked about legacy before, and I saw somebody in the chat that says something about what is legacy. And I remember me and Inez had a difference of opinion on what legacy was, because I was saying it shouldn't or it doesn't have anything to do with financial. And her point to it was that it was. And recently, my mom and I were talking about legacy because, of course, we was talking about my grandfather again. And the thing that she had said to me that was so profound, I don't know where she got it from. And I was like, yes, that's what I was trying to say, is that she had said that people get mixed up with what legacy is and inheritance is. She said, you leave with an inheritance, you leave that for your children. Legacy, you leave in your children. And I just thought that that was so profound because I'm like, yes, because with my grandfather, he wasn't a man of many means. And I had expressed that before, is that what he left as a legacy was who he was as a man. He was the patriarch of the family, and his values and his character was what he instilled in each generation after us, which we still continue on to our kids. The legacy of marriage, that was important to him. Putting God first, those things were important to him. Treating others the way that you want to be treated, like all of these the values that make the person. That was his legacy that he left, and it didn't include any money at all. And I think a lot of times we place so much in the money, like you said, the love of money, that becomes the priority, and that becomes the legacy. And I just think that that is part of what we're seeing now, because in order to get the money, you have a lot of people that are not investing the time in the family to promote the character building, the legacy that really matters.
To carry
And I
on with their kids.
yeah, so that can go on for generations and generations to come. And I think that is part of the problem, is that when we prioritize the money and say the money is the legacy, so let me work, all of these hours a week, and then you're missing that time to instill certain things in your children, and you think that you're going to be able to buy them character, or buy them values, and it just it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
So
So
I think what I was talking about with legacy may have been misunderstood a little bit, because to me, as a woman, and I would love to hear the men on this topic as well, as a woman, you have to have both, right? Because legacy isn't just instilling character and values, it's also allowing the next generation opportunity to focus on their purpose, to have more doors open to them than the previous generation, to have something to continue to build on. If we're strictly leaving people with character, and generation after generation they have to build from the ground up, to me, that isn't any more legacy than leaving just inheritance behind. It has to be the two of them in tandem, where we're leaving the next generation set up for success on all fronts, better than the previous generation, and continuing the type of character that is going to continue to move that forward with each generation, where each generation adds a building block to the previous one. So to me, you can't have legacy without the values and character and morals, as well as some sort of financial backing that leaves them with a better starting point than you started off with.
It's like a foundation, almost. And I wanted to share a quote that I saw from Jordan Peterson, where he said that marriage is by no means as bad as being alone. Well, this was in arguments for, I guess, for marriage with men, like for men's reasons for getting married, by the way, because I wanted to see what the arguments were online. But he says marriage is by no means as bad as being alone with yourself, but it is still out of the frying pan and into the fire, and at least the fire might transform you. Thus, you get married if you have any courage, if you have any long-term vision and ability to vow and adopt responsibility, if you have any maturity, and you start to transform the two of you into one reasonable person. And I thought that was really good, because of what that requires of you two. And then that's how you get and you create a legacy over the years, is those people making a decision to grow and to take on that responsibility and to uphold those vows. So
Got it. I have a super chat with JB again.
Jonathan, ooh, JB, no, Shantae,
Shante.
Shantae, you're misunderstanding. I'm saying that married men have more to lose than unmarried men, which
Gotcha.
is one reason why being married brings you status in business and or corporate America.
Understood. Okay. Yeah, I got that all wrong. And I'm Shan Monet now. I'm not Shante anymore.
Here's the next super chat. Another one just came in. Shan Monet.
Shan Monet.
Chamonix.
I get the okay. Ray Alexander. Oh, we were looking for you, Ray. You're gonna have to hit us up in one of our IGs in the back chat. We had a job for you. Employers perceive married men as more stable and committed than their single male peers.
Right.
What is the male marriage premium by Brian Kaplan?
That's correct. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
It was something else that I wanted to. I guess we can talk about that the next time around. Did you
There
guys?
was another super chat.
Oh, okay. Where is it?
I thought I saw another one.
No, I see.
Okay, no, that's it. All right.
Okay.
My
Did
bad.
anybody else want to add anything last? We're not gonna be here for a long time because this is how we're gonna
So,
from now on.
so I just wanted to share or see if anyone else remembers this, but it's a story or a poem that um, reflects on the fact that there was a couple that ended up, I guess the man, I don't remember if it was the couple that wanted to get divorced or just the man. But as the poem or story goes, they wanted to get divorced. However, there was a stipulation for a certain time period. The woman would greet the man at the door every day when he came home.
Oh, it's the 50s. I saw that.
Oh, okay. And he would have to carry her, let's say, to the bedroom every day for, we'll call it 90 days. I don't remember the time frame. And over the course of him doing this day after day, the first few days, it was like, oh, okay, I've got to do this, right? Just going through the motions. As the days passed and the days went on, as he carried her, he smelled her hair. He remembered what her hair smelled like. He remembered what the touch of her skin, the softness of her skin felt like. It just the connection each and every day. And by the nearing of the duration of the time period that he was to carry her from the door to the bedroom, he fell in love with this woman all over again, realizing the slight and small nuances of his wife that he had forgotten. And so I guess the moral of bringing this up is sometimes marriage can be difficult, but if you just stop for a moment and just go back to the very beginning, right? What influence, and what made you want to marry this man or this woman to begin with? And if you just stop and give your commitment and dedication, it's possible to fall in love all over again. So that was just my 2 cents.
You know what? This has been a very interesting conversation with me. I heard it from both sides. My point in this, I just feel like the kids are suffering. Being around kids every day, they are suffering from these behaviors. The decisions that we're making, it is not looking good in the classroom. And if I walk outside, it ain't looking so good outside in the community either. So we have got to get it together. We have to listen to each other, get it together. The men are not comfortable because they feel like women, we are leaving for no reason. And even if we do have a reason, it's not a legit enough reason to leave your kids behind. It's not a legit reason to the point where, you can't work it out. You shouldn't stick around to work it out. So I understand wholeheartedly why they feel the way they feel. Women feel that men, I forgot what women feel. What sum it all up. Yes,
Well,
Marcus, save a gal.
I will save you and talk about this. I think one of the main issues that happen in relationships be power struggles. I think that people walk in relationships unclear on their role and trying to figure out who's the leader or if the person is worthy of leading. If you don't trust them, don't be with them.
Don't be with them.
And if you want to lead a man, find that type of man that's willing to be led. But don't try and conform or fight with a man and try and beat him in the like me and my wife don't fight at all. It's very, very clear how this thing works. I love her, show her all the love in the world. But I'm gonna think about some things, give me some input, but we're gonna go with what I'm saying we're gonna go with. And knowing that I'm gonna accept all responsibility, that's what goes back to the original portion of the conversation. I accept all fault. So because of that, I have to take all these things into consideration. Everything, all them, it's not enough information, and make the best decision for my family moving forward. I know Inez was asking if she wanted to speak about legacy. So I used to play basketball, and I got like banners and trophies and history books and sports all of that stuff. Right? Somebody might consider that a legacy, or buying a home and having land and all those things. Somebody might consider that a legacy. But when I think about legacy, I think about my grandfather. Um, he moved from sharecropping in Arkansas to Chicago, right? He he brought his whole family, his wife's family, all the way here to Chicago and used it as a springboard for them to each branch off from his house while raising his 5 or 6 kids. And in doing that, he was able to remain a staple within the community and his family, and his influence spans generations now. And this in Chicago and drug heavy infested, the Wyatt type of neighborhoods, right? He the only one who built and still standing firm. He bought the land next to him. if all the souls and all the foes from across, you know what I'm saying, 15th and 16th between home and St. Louis, right, or home and Kersey, they respect him and he can ask them to move and they'll move from in front of his building. Not because he out there shooting at them, but they respect him as a man. And I think that's a real legacy when you touch that many people's lives and intergenerationally can affect change. Because it's nothing different from us and everybody around that was raised in that area. Than we just had a father there or a grandfather there. And even those that wasn't raised directly, we had some type of example. So I think of legacy and I think of like he a beacon of legacy in my eyes.
Thank you for sharing that with us,
So
Marcus.
I have a question for the men and then the ladies too, in terms of resolution. What is it that you think as men, what work do you guys need to do to get in a situation of being marriage minded and, getting, working towards getting married? And for the women, what do you think as women we need to be doing, in order to, again, like make marriage the goal? What do we need to work on and do and start, I guess, training and passing down those things? We're talking about legacy. What can we do to kind of pass those things down to, like, the younger generation to work towards that as well?
You want to go? Who do you want to go first, ladies? Or
I don't care.
well, I know for me, mine is short and simple. I think that women need to date with intent, even if the man is. I mean, we have to ask those questions on the first date. Listen, don't waste your time. Keep your legs closed. It's valuable down there. You gotta hold it to a standard. Jesus, don't give it to everybody. I mean, goodness. Um, and that's just it. Like, start dating with intent. Don't date everybody. This is not a free for all. This is not about a bag and all that other stuff that y'all be saying. Just going in with a level head and keeping your standard and staying focused. And again, close your legs.
For guys, I would say the number one thing is to move in your purpose, on purpose, with intent, intentionally. Don't do anything that will compromise your purpose. Number two, don't just look for what's in between their legs. Don't get out here because there's something Ricky Williams said a while ago is when I started following him. Um, Imagine what you are doing to her when you're not trying to marry her and you're just busting them down. What you are doing to her. And I have a daughter who is 16 now, and I have to be mindful about how I move in front of her. And with all of that in perspective, it's about not worrying about what other people are saying about you if you are moving in your purpose. The women will the women will always be there. But until you are where you need to be able to A, take care of a wife, B, take care of a kid, C, maintain your home, you shouldn't be trying to date anyway. Struggle dating is not get out of that mindset. If you can't afford to take somebody out, then you shouldn't be going out. I truly feel that way. And I recognize there are terms that we use in these spaces, simping and all that shit just to scramble men and to shame men. But at the end of the day, if you are not providing, and I believe that a man must 150% fully provide for his home. I fully believe that. And if you can't do that, then you're wasting your time and her time, and time is the one thing that you can't afford to lose. So be in your purpose, on purpose, with intent, intentionally.
Thank Thank you, Tam.
And I think that's the way you have to move as a man.
Awesome. Anybody else wanted to share?
Let me say this: fuck them hoes. Focus on what you do.
Pink!
Fuck them
A
hoes.
man
Focus
scorn.
on what you need to do.
But he about to
He
get
entitled. He
married
entitled.
himself.
He
That's what
entitled to that.
that's what men need to do. The hell with these women. Focus on you. Focus on what you have to do. Do hell with them. They're gonna come because they're shallow. Their standards are low. We have nothing to worry about. As long as you get your money, they're gonna be there because that's what they're looking for. Somebody to provide. As long as you display your leadership, they're gonna come. They're looking for someone to lead them, to guide them. So if you focus on yourself, you have nothing to worry about. But men, the hell with them. Focus on you. Be the best version of yourself. They will follow. And then you could pick and choose what you need and what you're looking for. And if they're not right for you, you leave them heifers at the restaurant. And you keep it moving
So
until you find that right woman. And when you find that right woman, you make an honest woman of her.
So I know Hank's take was like a controversial take, but I wholeheartedly agree with it because a man who's not focused on women is not easily swayed by just any woman. So I commend you and I wholeheartedly stand by you in that statement. 100%. I wish more men would do that and focus on themselves instead of focusing on impressing somebody that they don't necessarily want to be with in the first place. But I want to say this for women.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Go ahead.
That's okay. I want to say this for the women. The same way that you get a mentor for school, the same way that you get a mentor for business, the same way that you look up to a particular woman for a fashion sense or whatever it is that you find interest in, find you a woman who models the kind of marriage that you aspire to. Find you somebody that you can ask those difficult questions to. Find you somebody who's willing to be transparent with you of what that work really looks like. Find you somebody who's not willing to just tell you the good stuff and lie to you about the hard stuff. Find you somebody that you can use as a resource to make a marriage work. Stop relying on fairy tales. Stop relying on social media. Stop relying on what your girlfriend who isn't really happy is saying. Find somebody who has what you want, that you have access to, that you can use to build something that's going to last.
Thank you.
Nice.
Anybody else wanted to?
And I'll just add the person we choose to marry is one of the most important decisions we'll ever make in our lives. And so, as women, I would say I was going to talk about the modeling, so I won't repeat what This Is Inaz said. But we as women have to model and lead by example. We all need to see what we want to be legacy. And so if we want our women to make our girls to make good decisions and good choices in who they select as a husband, we've got to model and lead with the characteristics, the morals, the ethics. People hear what you say, but they watch what you do.
I would say I agree with Hank that we need to become the
I
best
can't hear
version.
you, big dog.
I say I agree with Hank. I think we need to become the best versions of ourselves that we can become. And part of that is learning some skills like de-escalation, conflict resolution, and listening. Um, when you're able to do that, you can avoid a lot of issues because a lot of the problems people have is things get lost in translation and people hear things through their heart and not through their ears. And if you can validate what somebody else saying, like I know at the beginning when we was talking about divorce, the man needed empathy, and then we can move to discussing what XYZ. But with anybody, they also need empathy when they're trying to express something. So we hear them, and then we can move forward trying to get to a resolution we both can agree on. Because if I get shot and you get cut, I might feel like my gunshot ain't as bad as your cut, but I'm entitled to feel that way. And you might feel that the paper cut is worse than my gunshot. You entitled to feel that way. Subjectively, they, looking at it from the outside looking in, you would say it's no way, but it is a way because that's how that person feel, and it's true to them. But it don't make it true to everyone else. So if we could start from there and then come to a point where we can see eye to eye, that make it a whole lot easier. And then for a young man, once you do that, I wouldn't advise them to get married before 25. I think experience life. You need to know what type of women you want or what type of woman you want, so you can pick her out, and then you know really what you get into. So you're not having that, damn, I should have waited, or damn, I didn't know this type of woman existed. I didn't know this type of experience was possible. Because a lot of the horror stories I hear, I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. But I can imagine how they got to that point, because they didn't have the experience. They didn't know what to look for. They didn't know what not to look for. Yeah, you got to experience life, big dog.
I'll go real quick. I want to second what Enoch said, but also too, this is something I tell my clients. So for young women, even if they're in high school, start thinking long term. It doesn't mean it has to be set in stone, but really think about what you want long term, the reasons why, and then reflect that onto what you're doing day to day. Because the things that you do today, from your habits to maybe a split second decision where you give in to peer pressure, can affect you for the rest of your life. So think long term, and then make sure that you're also purposeful and intentional with the decisions you're making each day. So
Anybody else need to give their point? I wanted to I did ask a few successful men, because one person made a good point in the chat, and then I'm going to the super chat real fast and we be out. I feel like you should get married in your 30s, and this was the advice that he gave, because I was like, do you think that you are too young to get married? And even though he's divorced now, he's like, I have no regrets. He said, because he feels that he's as successful as he is because he focused on one woman. He didn't have all of that noise, and he is for sure that wouldn't have happened had he been in the streets doing everything else. So he has even though it led to a divorce, he absolutely does not have any regrets as it relates to that. And he's a pretty successful guy. So real fast, I have a super chat right here. Mr. JB again.
JB. Hey. I'm very pro marriage. Given the system we live in, though, I believe a man should get married if he has a specific goal.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean. Oh, girl, y'all know I don't know what I'm doing. Go ahead. Sorry.
He should get married. I believe a man should get married if he has a specific goal, purpose, and plan that requires marriage, not to live a Disney fairy tale. I'm gonna be honest. I think most men have more realistic like expectations in marriage than women do. And a case in point, like I remember getting so upset like with my husband about stuff like early on in our marriage, and he just used to be like, everything for you is a 10. It's just not that big of a deal for me.
Women are emotional creatures.
Yeah, and I'm like, what do you mean? How could you
my
not be
emotions were from
upset?
10 to 1 tonight? It was like,
And he's like, I just have it. I know we're gonna have ups and downs. So when the downs happen, I know the ups are coming. So I'm not tripping. You like ready to like, I just don't think this is working, and I felt like that, but at the end of the day, I think it's because he had the more level-mindedness in the relationship when it came to the ebbs and flows that kind of was the anchor to the marriage, which, then I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. Because once we got through it, it was like, oh, okay, that really wasn't that big of a deal. So
can I build on that point? Well, just real quick, I just want to say this. As men, we got to remember we set the trend for how things go in a relationship, right? So how we engage each other. She was just describing how she was on an emotional roller coaster and he was stable. That stability provides the space in which you guys can communicate and you don't have to fight it and do all these extra things. That's all.
Facts.
I love that. But to the commenter, and Shan, maybe you can post if he responds, but I do have a question. What goal or purpose would you have as a man that would not include marriage for your life? Like, I'm just curious, right? Because to me, when it comes to community, when it comes to legacy, when it comes to all of these things.
Just growing old, companionship. Wouldn't you want somebody to go through life with? Because there's going to be times when it's going to
Yes,
get
ma'am.
hard, and
Yes.
you're going to
And
need somebody
so
to speak for you. You know, somebody to be there besides you. Because we're thinking that we're going to be this age forever. When you get older, it's a whole nother set of issues that come along with that.
so I agree with that. I agree with that, but I think that could possibly be our perspective as women. So I'm curious from a gentleman what that could possibly look like for you to have a goal or a purpose where marriage would not be included.
You say they got a dog.
Like relationship wise, or like business wise.
So the commenter said that a man should not get married unless there is a purpose or a goal in which marriage fits into, right? And so as a woman, marriage fits into all of it. So I'm curious from either the commenter's perspective or a man's perspective, what goal or purpose could you possibly have where marriage would not be included?
My college degree.
Okay, baby, you're so cool.
You said obtaining a college degree.
Yes.
Well, I think when you have a college degree, that assists in marriage in terms of starting off and making more money that you would need to take care of a family, right?
No, not necessarily.
So
you get a trade and make just as much or more.
But getting a college degree doesn't last a lifetime, though, right? There's still time to attain a college degree and fulfill marriage purpose.
Yeah, but when you get married, you know, it's a lot harder because your time is, you don't have that as much time as you would if you were single. Because
right.
now you're not focused up on yourself anymore. It's not about you anymore. It's about your spouse.
So I guess what the question was is what would your life
was what can we obtain that we could do that without being married? So to me, you can obtain your college degree without being married. Or as far as an individual goal, that wouldn't include marriage. So that's just my
opinion. I think it might be easier to set up a career without being married because, like when I was hooping, all of that traveling, that was a strain on the relationship. And all them hours that you might be away building a business, that could also be a strain because, like Coach K, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of like the 90s and 2000s white couples, divorce was a real big thing, right? And the according to Eminem music, I don't know, but according to that, divorce was a big thing, and the kids were complaining that their parents tried to buy them everything but weren't there for them, so they missed out on a whole lot. I don't want us to move into that era of making that similar mistake where money becomes our everything. You know what I'm saying?
So I love you guys' answers because I think it gave me the kind of perspective to that comment that I was missing, that disconnect, that a man has to reach a certain point in his life of reaching certain goals or a certain level of success in order to sustain a marriage is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
And that's probably why more men who are of success are marrying and opposed to who are not. Maybe.
Can I say something? This is one of the things I think, especially in the West and just in a capitalistic society, is that in general, we do prioritize our job, our money. We say we're doing it for family, but in essence, is not. I think it is ego at that point. Is the drive is the ego, because what begins to happen, what benefits the family the most is not the money, but is the time. But especially as men, and I think as a society, even as women, we celebrate men that are working so hard, doing all of these hours, and he gets to say, I'm willing to sacrifice my family for my family. Like, that doesn't make sense. I'm willing to put in all of this time, all of this effort, all of this work to make all of this money, to have this legacy. And then in essence, what the kids need are you, the time, and you can't get that back. And what you will find a lot of times is when you're, especially when you're younger and you're starting your family, you're going through the process of growing up, you're working, you're doing all of those things with your family. But then when you get older, you look back and you have so many regrets because your kids are no longer there. They're off with their own families and things like that. And you just wish you were able to get that time back, and you can't. And for me, just speaking from experience, with, now my kids are no longer in the house, and I'm like, oh, I miss them. I wish I could cook them a dinner. When they were here, it's just like, oh my God, I gotta cook again. Things like that. I couldn't appreciate it. But I think, and I had mentioned this before, that like last year my husband and I both had got COVID. And I thought we were going to die. We probably wasn't, but that was as close to death as I felt like it was. And just in that moment of thinking that something was going to happen to him, and he thinking something that was going to happen to me, that just looking at life, nothing else mattered. Before, it was like climbing a ladder. That was my priority. I kept going to school, getting these degrees, trying to make more money so we can do X, Y, and Z. And at that time, none of that mattered. What I begin to think about is how regretful I was, because I sacrificed time with my kids and my husband in order to get these degrees, in order to make more money. And then it just didn't matter. Like the corporate ladder, I mean, I'm not in corporate, but the climbing the ladder didn't matter. The money didn't matter. It was just like, I just wish that I really had spent more time with my children, or I had more time left, And so I just wish that a lot of times we will learn that lesson earlier on, and invest our time with our family. I heard that in other countries, that they look at us crazy because of the amount of time that we spend away from our family and working, versus they prioritize family. So not to say that they don't work, but it doesn't take as much priority. And I think there's a lot to be said and a lot to learn from that we invest in the family.
So, mistaken, I think the first part of what you said, I wholeheartedly disagree with. I don't think that women celebrate men who work strenuous hours. I think that's men who encourage other men to do that. I think women appreciate a man that's successful because he's able to buy back his time. He's able to use his resources to make himself more available, or he has several streams of income that allow him to be more available, right?
That's
And
not most men, though.
no,
Most.
I understand that. I
Mhm.
understand, but typically what happens is we take the expectations of what we have and we put that on people who aren't necessarily there yet, right? So the guy who's working, you know, a job that doesn't have a whole lot of income, who's putting in extra hours, other men will celebrate that because they see him as putting in that work to get that promotion, right? Whereas the woman is not necessarily celebrating that. I think that's encouragement from other men in terms of quote unquote chasing the bag. So I don't see women supporting that. I
You
see
don't
women.
think that we indirectly support it when we
No, I
want,
think women
when
support
we
it in
want
terms of
more
the end.
money? So
No, I think
when women are like saying, I want a house, or I want this, so they may not directly be saying, I don't want you to put more hours in. But if he is going to be the type of man that try to provide for you the things that you want, that is going to come at a cost, and that cost many times is time.
no. So again, I think this is like to going back to the conversation about women initiating divorce. I think this is part of that disconnect. Women encourage the end result. They don't necessarily encourage all of the steps that it takes to get there, right? I think men look at that perspective very differently, and men understand that in order to give that woman that house, I got to put in these extra hours. I don't think women typically have the same compassion for that. Women want men to have this balance that may not necessarily exist in terms of that in between setting the goal and attaining the goal. And the other thing that I wanted to say, I think it's really easy to look at, because I come from a culture, I'm East African originally. I come from a culture where um, the working hours are not a 9 to 5. They look very different to accommodate for a more balanced family life. You'll maybe work a 7 to 3, have between 3 to 7 as free time, and then you're working from 7 to 11. Some cultures call that a siesta, but there's a break during daylight where people are able to take a break, to spend time with family, to share a meal. Society accommodates for that lifestyle. In the West, we don't have that. There's no system that's set up for society to function in a way to maintain a balance between working long hours, living the white picket fence dream, and still maintaining a real relationship with family. And so, yes, we can say, we can look at those cultures and take something from them, but what does that look like in practice when their societies set up for that? There's systems in place. They're everything business wise and all functions around being able to balance your work and family.
Can I get you to explain that one more time? My math may be bad, but 7 to 3 and 9 to 5 are the same exact amount of hours, and an
She
hour lunch break is an
said,
hour
No, no,
lunch
no.
break.
So what I'm saying is that the 9 to 5 isn't enough to actually live the kind of lifestyle a lot of people are trying to maintain. So typically what'll happen, if you're looking to buy a home, if you're looking to have luxury items, if you're looking to put your children in Montessori or private schools, it requires additional hours past the 9 to 5. You're either going to work early or staying late or doing both, typically for your average North American, right? Now, that being said, a society that has more balance and family time still has those extended business hours. However, there is a break in the middle of the day that allows you to literally spend time with your family. That means businesses are closed. That means that schools have that same break as businesses, where everybody can go share a meal at home, have a conversation about their day, and then go back to what it is that they're doing, right? There is that setup of, okay, everybody in society is taking a break at the exact same time so that we can build a community, and then we all go back to work or go back to school or go back to whatever it is that our day looks like. The society's built up that way, whereas
So
the
you're saying that it's the same amount of hours, but like instead of going straight from 7 to 3, it might be from 7 to 11. Then they take the break, spend time with their family, and then come back and finish off the rest of those hours.
Yeah,
Like I
so
live.
it looks differently in different countries, right? What it looks like in East Africa is different than what it looks like in Spain, for example, right?
Hmm,
Like that idea of siesta looks different in different cultures, but they still have that break. They still
gotcha.
have that time for community.
I was in Syria, right? And the first day it freaked me out because I just started hearing the chanting. Like they was just chanting, and they stopped everything. You can't buy a drink, you can't buy a soda, you can't buy anything, and it's just common prayer hours. I thought something bad was gonna happen the first time I started hearing all the chanting. Like, but I dated a you Habesha or Eritrean.
I'm Yemeni.
Oh, okay. She the girl I dated, like that was from East Africa before. She valued that same thing. Like you had to eat dinner together every day. You know what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
One thing I was just going to add is, and this could definitely go towards a conversation about just economic systems and things like that, that's always fascinating to me. But there's so many different variables at play here, and Tan said in the back chat, a very important word, which is priority. So I think with all of these work hours, and I don't think people are prioritizing, family when they're wanting the best car or something like that. Like, you're gonna have to work more if you want these things, which will take more, take time away from your family. Like, are you realizing that? Like, don't blame capitalism when you're making these decisions right now to, you know, have these nice things and the best new whatever updated tech versus, you know, maybe saying no, I'll wait a while, wear hand-me-downs, I don't know, and spend time with your family.
Mhm.
Okay, we have a super chat, you guys. Hold on for a second. Jonathan showing up
All
and showing
right, JB. And this is Inaz. It's a it's a cost benefit analysis. If we're being honest, men can do just fine without marriage, especially considering the risks. However, if you want family, growth in business, certain levels of access, etc., marriage is the way. All right.
I think
I
that
don't
it, you know,
know.
I personally think that it's up to the person. Some people can do, you know, not everybody's going to be married. Not everybody's marriage minded. There are going to be some people who just, and I'm not talking about JB because he has a reason. And I heard JB is married. Congratulations. Woo woo.
Oh, congrats.
That's what I saw in the chat. I don't know, you know, but
Oh.
I think that there are people who really don't want to be married. They don't see a benefit and maybe in their life that's not their purpose. They're just not supposed to be married, and that is okay. But they should not be going on dates acting like they want to be married. They need to make that very clear.
Or trying to
mean, there's
become
that.
daddies. and
Becoming
not be married.
daddies. Yes. Don't become a daddy.
There's that part too, right? But when we look at because I spoke earlier about, you know, the difference between value and benefits, right? Like when we look at the benefits that men get out of marriage, you live longer, you live healthier, your quality of life is longer. You typically will have somebody caring for you in your elder ages. Like you're not just shoved off in a home and neglected. Like there are a whole lot of benefits that if we're going to talk about cost benefit analysis, my question again would be how long is your time frame in that cost benefit analysis? Because if you're going until end of life, marriage is beneficial to men, and in fact winds up costing you a lot less than living single until end of life, where, you know, treatment and care and all of this stuff would fall on your own financial burden. So again, I think it's kind of semantics, but, you know, teach their own.
All right, you
There's
got
been
one more
several.
super chat.
2 more.
Two more? Okay. The ex-son husband, $10. Lied to these hoes, gang in the building.
Oh, no hoes here. So he's not talking about us. He's talking about another chat. He must be watching something else. So
Okay, yeah.
not talking
But
to
we'll
us.
take
About
it in.
e-commerce.
Thank you.
Wrong chat though. Thanks.
Jonathan, JB again, $10. At this Inez, respectfully, you're tripping. The primary reason I'm where I'm at in my life at my age is because I outwork most of my peers. There's no such thing as balance for successful men.
That's true. You're gonna give up one or the other. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
each
totally
one
agree.
probably gonna give up time.
But this is the thing, though. I think
I
when you
totally
are a
agree.
single man, look, if JB just got married, I'm gonna just try to give a
Maybe
little
she
bit
understands.
advice, just a little bit. Is when you were single, that should have been your priority and purpose, your drive. But now that you married, there needs to be some shifting. I'm not saying not to work, but if you are married and about to plan to start having a family at some point, your priority needs to become your family. That's all I'm saying.
I will also say, just because that comment was directed at me, I'm not tripping and you cannot outlogic me. Um, Financial success and overall success are two very different conversations. So you might be financially in a better position than your peers, but that does not mean that your family is not suffering because of your financial success. That does not mean that your overall happiness is not suffering because of your financial success. And so when I'm talking about balance, I'm talking about overall. I'm not just talking about the money that you're bringing home to your family.
I will say that women do want a man who is, when it comes in terms of success, usually financially. At least that's what we hear all across the YouTube
Mhm.
streets, you know. And then we'll say that I don't see him enough. So I will say
Yep.
that at least. But yeah,
Yep.
you guys are both right.
Yeah,
And the
we want
issue,
it all, but we can't have it both ways.
It's
Like,
something to give.
yeah, we want them to have that drive. We want them to make all of this money, but then it comes at a cost with the time, and then we're upset and we're like, he's never here with the family. I don't get to spend enough time. Like, we can't have it both ways. Either A, that we prioritize the money along with the guy and be okay with not having the time, or allow him to make, whatever decisions he would need to make on that end, which means the money may have the potential to suffer, but you get more time. For
So
me,
I'll,
at this
Or
stage of my life, I'm okay with foregoing some things, foregoing things over having the time. Like, before we had this, my husband was downstairs playing music. He came upstairs to check on me, and we just danced a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the moments that I can't pay for. If he wasn't here because he's working extra because I want a bigger house or I want more of this or that, I'm going to miss out on the times where we're just dancing, or where we're just, talking or making jokes or things like that. And those are the things that I can definitely know and see that I value. I value those things, and so do he.
But
So,
just want to
it's
say,
so crazy though, the real fast. I think that is just to the person. Some people are,
mhm.
you have to be around your mate all the time. Like I told you one time, I just need a little bit of, it's okay. Do you go to work a
You
little
want a
bit?
whole nother house.
I even bring you some lunch to work. But I think it's just that there it is. You have to find that person who works best for you. And maybe that situation would work best for you, but it may work okay for his wife. So
I
so
will
I,
say this.
I agree with that, Shan. I'll toss it right to you, Marcus, because I just want to get this off. I agree with that, but here's the thing: is like we talk about legacy so freaking much, right? We talk about legacy day in, day out, all the time. But here's the thing: is if you are not a man who is in your household, you cannot, under any circumstances, guarantee that your legacy is going to continue. You are not there to instill your values. You are not there to impart your wisdom. You are all you are leaving behind is inheritance, right? If you do
Can
not have
you
enough
say that's part of
balance,
the legacy though?
it's only part of it, but you can't have the entirety of it.
and hard
If you're
work
not also there.
hard work is,
If
and let me
and
just say this,
dedication to a cause. What are we talking about?
Absolutely.
let
But
me
if
say
you're not, hang on,
let
give me 1 second, Shan. I promise. But here's the thing: how many people, right, are out here either in therapy or refusing therapy because their particular parent was not there, right? How much damage does that person do? No matter whether you were out getting resources or not, that parent was not there. That child did not feel love from that parent because that parent was simply not there, right?
Well, then,
You were not
but
an
that's
active parent.
let
Hang
me
on, give me
say
1
this.
second. Let me get this off. I promise. Give me 30 seconds. I will get this off, right? At the end of the day, if you are not there, right? If you are not an active parent, you are not an active partner, all you are doing is bringing in resources. That is it. And yes, that is a part of legacy. But if you are leaving half of it behind by being active, by modeling out what it looks like to be a husband, a father, if you are not there to impart your wisdom, and all of your values, your morals, your ethics onto this kid, like you have no balance at all. One, I don't know any child that's going to actually understand that and not have to process all of that. And two, is that money really worth it at the end of the day? Is that something that you can feel good about yourself, that you gave up some amount of balance to bring in these resources that have worked against you because this child was not actually able to understand, right?
but
That's
but
all I'm saying.
Wait,
but
hold
that,
up. Can I just say one
but
No,
thing?
no, we got a line
that's
here.
the
We got to get these likes up, though. It's
Yeah, yeah.
11 likes and it's 243 people in here. Get them likes up.
But
I
that's
will.
Right.
when
So
the
look,
wife needs
I,
to step
I will
in
next.
as doing her job. She
Yeah.
needs to go and be and explain it to the child why your father is doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's her job.
Let me
I
tell
mean,
you
what
this.
is she
Let me
doing?
tell
She
you
just gonna
this.
sit on her ass
Let me
and
tell
reap
you
the
this.
benefits?
Let me tell you this. No, let me just say this. As a person, and this really happened in my classroom. On the first day, I asked people to tell me about your family. And there was one thing that the three kids who mentioned their father. You know what they said about their fathers? I love my dad because I see how hard he works for our family, how hard he puts in that. These are things. This is real life. This is what they said. They never said any. The three people who talked about their dad, those were the things that they said. It's like, I just see how hard he's working for us, and I respect that out of him. That's what they said, and
Okay.
I'm not lying.
I will say this. I will say this. Prior to my I was a workaholic type of person. Whatever I was gonna do, I was gonna work my hardest, and all I could see is the goal. Like video games, I'm just trying to get the highest score, the most achievements, right? And one of my guys was like, "You gonna go to Miami with me?" And this right before my daughter was born. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll probably be able to go. It'll probably be like 30 days out from the baby." He was like, "All right, cool." The people at the job told me, they like, "You're not gonna want to go nowhere when the kids come." I'm like, "Not me. I'm gonna still get out here and live my life." What you mean, bro? You know how we get. Next thing you know, I don't want to go nowhere. Like I'm with my family as much as I possibly can. I'm stationary as far as I'm concerned because my priorities shift, and you don't know until you know. Like you don't know how much your parents love you until you have kids and you look at your kids, and then you're like, "Damn, they really do got a lot of love for me," and it's just different. So I can't fault him for feeling that way. He may still be able to
He
remain.
doesn't have children yet. So you said he doesn't have kids, so he's at a different time in his life. So when kids go into play, maybe that's something he'll experience with the children. But at this moment, he doesn't have children.
Yeah.
And that's why I say this is the time for him to go hard. And especially if he has a wife that is understanding of that, and maybe she has her own thing going on too. This is the time that they can do that. But I think, like you said, once the children come, that it should be a shift because they need both parents.
But we also got to realize we're talking about the average people, though. Y'all talking about people who's above average. The average person, they go.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about average people because I'm not going to lie. For women,
let me
for
finish.
women, a lot of times we are pushing our men to get us things that we want in terms of, I want a house, I want X, Y, and Z. So even if it's an average person, that average person is going to have to put in more work to get more money to get those things for the family.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you talk about being a problem when you spend it. That's what the mother is for. The mother is supposed to be the one reinforcing why the father's doing what he's doing, right? That's what her job is. If not, then what is her job?
Her job can tell it, but it doesn't replace you. That's the thing. I can tell your dad is out working hard for us. You see this house that he got this for us. That feels good, and that's good for me to tell, but it's not going to replace your presence and influence that child needs. You are important.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is the quality of time is not going to be there like y'all think. I'm not going to have the opportunity to spend 4 or 5 hours a day with my son or my daughter or my child. You're just not, right?
That's crazy, though. Do you hear that? Like, if you really just
but now your divorce situation is making a little bit
more sense. Let me say this. 8 hours a day, because I got school-age kids. I don't know about y'all. 8 hours a day, they're in school. Now, to me, that's too much, but that's the school system, and that's what it is. So 8 hours a day, they're in school. You're sleeping for 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours, right? That's 16 hours already gone. You only got 8 more hours to deal. What are we doing?
Well, that's my point. If you're working your if you're prioritizing your family, the kids are in school 8 hours a day. Typically, the job, your job is kind of around like either that 9 to 5 or 8 to 3, like however that works for you. It's kind of set up around the school system a little bit. So by the time the kids get out of school, you may have 2 hours of work left at 5, let's say at 5 o'clock. Hold on. Just hear me out. Hold on. Just hear me out. So if you're working 8 hours, the kids are in school 8 hours. I know it may not line up exactly, right? You might get out at 5, they may get out at 3, right? So they're in daycare for that time until you're able to get off and pick them up. Then they get home. What I'm trying to say is after you leave your job, Your job, you clock in, your hours are from 8 to 9 to 5.
Let's
At
just find out what
5,
the situation is.
at
Maybe we
5
should just find out
o'clock,
what the
you
situation
need to be headed home, is what I'm saying. You don't need
So-
to be sitting there saying, let me get more billable hours so I can make more money and do these things for my family. What I'm saying is clock out when you're supposed to leave, and then you'll have that time with your family.
Shit.
So
So
you can
here's the
have
thing:
that
is
time.
Not everybody's working that job where they're getting $80,000 to $90,000 without doing no overtime. That's not what people doing. I don't, like I
That was
said.
my
is. I
point.
think that's how your wife
I'm
does
gonna
in that
go
overtime.
to
I
Kentucky
agree.
for
That was
hours.
my point.
Okay, well let me finish now. Our school hours for high school, I'm saying high school and middle school, it goes from 7:45 to 2:30. So now they're out of school from that time on, right?
Mhm.
If your kids are in activities, after school activities, it may be another hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, right? So now you run into the 5 o'clock hour. They still have homework to do. They still have their own obligations they have. My son has homework every night. Every night, not even on weekends, he has a book he has to read or some type of report he has to do. Now I know every school is not like it, but his is giving him my example. So now he still have to do. So he's going to spend about an hour and a half, 2 hours a night doing homework. So where's that time? I got to eat. Either I'm there helping him, or his mother's helping him, or she's cooking, or I'm cooking. Something's got to be done. And then that's not include for anything that may need to be done around the home that the wife has asked me to do.
But
So
that's time. You're in the house. That's my point. You're not
in the house, but
outside
you're
of
not
the
spending
house.
time with your
I
child.
see what he's
You're
saying.
just present in the home.
Mhm.
so
There's a
I
difference.
Helping them with their homework is being present, though.
Exactly.
I
so
understand,
hang on.
but not all. Let me again. You may not always be the one who could help him with all. What if it's an assignment you just don't know?
Right.
Right?
So
Somebody in the family is weak at math. Man, I can't really help him. But I can help him with his English and science and the social studies. But math is my weak subject. So now you're not
Same.
involved in that, right? So
That's
you're not spending the time you should be spending with him.
Let me
Because that's why that's where those work hours come in. Because now you can get a tutor for your kid and keep it
But you're
moving.
not spending time with your kid though,
Like it's
right?
crazy to me
Less time
because
spending
all right,
with your kid.
let's do these super chats, y'all.
so hang on. Oh,
JB took words right out of my mouth, what I was about to say, but it's okay.
Well, say it before we read it. Cover it up.
Do this one. Did we already do
oh,
this
we
one?
already did this one. Yeah.
Okay. Cat 699. I'm gonna just say E. Nas, what do you tell men that weigh the divorce rates and the fact that 80% of divorces are filed by women? This number keep getting higher and higher. It's not 80%, but it's okay. E, always trade off if you want that high earning man. That's true. E, 699. Men, you can't win. If you don't make enough money, they complain. If you're a high earner and not home enough, they complain. That's what I was saying. JB, $20. Thank you. Whoop, whoop. My pops is my role model. He's the hardest working man I've ever known. He was always the first to wake up and the last to sleep. He always had a red eye. I'm forever grateful for him and how hard he worked for our family.
Salute to your pops.
So I wanted to say this
And that's
in terms of
exactly what I'm saying. Y'all keep saying, well, you need to spend his time. But you only have a possible 8-hour window before that and bedtime for your kids. Yet you're gonna have to find some time not only spend time with your kids, and if you have multiple kids, now you got multiple times you gotta spend with the kids. Then you gotta find some time with your significant other. Because best believe she's not gonna let you go without spending some time with her.
And more than likely, it's not 8 hours, to be
yeah.
honest.
So that's
To be realistic, more than likely, you
I
don't
was just
have.
doing the math.
Yeah,
You're right.
look, I got your point, but I'm bringing it home. A lot of times, it's not even 8 hours in the evening. It's just not realistic. The problem is in America, our system is just not set up to accommodate prioritizing family. It's just not. Prime example, if we think about COVID, March 15th, everything shut down in the United States in 2020. And let's just talk about how everything went completely awry. Businesses wanted to continue. In order for businesses to continue, people needed to work. People are employees, right? But schools were out. Kids were home. 2-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 15-year-olds. Kids were out of school and had to be home. Well, if employees need to be working the businesses, who was going to tend to the kids who were at home? The kids who are 3, 4, 5, and 6 who can't stay at home by themselves. They can't cook. They can't fend for themselves. So then what happens?
Well, that was a mess. They never should have done that anyway. So I'm just going to say that. That's like two sides of the same coin.
Finish one moment.
Mhm.
We didn't have an answer for any of that. It was completely chaotic. But the reality is, the United States of America is not structured to prioritize family. But we also don't demand that, right?
Right.
Look at our holidays. It used to be on Thanksgiving where stores wouldn't dare open up on Thanksgiving before certain time.
But who's all buying the stuff,
They wouldn't dare open up, but now they do because we support it. There's a demand for it.
They
So
stop.
the businesses go where there's a demand. So, that's just overall. United States is just not. We don't have the structure.
Well, what I'll say is, but if it's a capitalist society, the market is us, like all the people. So it's like we don't value these things. We have to shift our priorities, and then these companies won't make money if they're open. You know what I mean? So that's something that I think is very powerful, and I think that's a great point, Tan. Is that take what you can control directly, control the controllables, and if we all know the benefits of family and of the mother and father, then you have to set that up and do whatever you have to do to make that happen for you and your kids. And I will say too, I did not grow up in a 2-parent household. I grew up with a single dad. And I just wanted to say real quick, shout out to you, Dad, because he worked his butt off, second shift, third shift, whatever, had like one pair of like gym shoes. Now he has an addiction, which is so weird for me to see, but I just appreciate him so much, his work ethic. And he was hard on us, but I'll never forget it. And I don't think I can ever repay him. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. So
I think
not
what
that
I,
he's watching, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, Coach K, Dad.
And then to mark off what Tam was saying, some of y'all parents couldn't stand y'all goddamn kids.
Yeah.
Y'all was ready to kill them.
Listen, they were
and then let me say this. Y'all
they
had more
put us
sympathy
teachers
for
in
teachers than I
harm's
ever
way
seen in my
because
life.
they didn't want to be with their kids.
Y'all had more sympathy for teachers than I ever seen in my life. I was ready to go back to the classroom. Y'all was paying the teachers so well.
No, they wasn't paying us. They didn't care about us at all.
Well, then
They were sitting there. They
teaching
didn't
at the wrong school.
hazard pay.
Hey, if you was in Kentucky, they was paying the retired teachers. You still gonna get your retirement plus an extra twice as what you was making yearly in Kentucky.
Not twice. No, we didn't get that.
Yes,
Didn't get
I'm
that.
saying in Kentucky.
Oh, that's
In
mistaken
Kentucky.
out in her head, like in agreement. I'm like, no.
No, I mean we had retired teachers come out of retirement, still getting their pension and getting their pay. Plus
Oh, well,
they
that's a part of the teaching period anyway. That has nothing to do with COVID. That's that. Well, in Atlanta, you're able to do that.
but you was getting double your pay.
Well, they do get double. So because we have
No. Listen.
No, he's talking about during the
You get your
pandemic.
pension,
Yeah.
You still get your pension, plus they get paying you twice as much as what. So say it was 50,000. Now they're giving you 100,000
Oh wow, that's great.
for the year. Yes.
well,
And you know what's so sad about that?
Teacher shortage.
What's so sad about that is when we're talking about prioritizing, the fact that some people who were coming out of retirement were, of course, of older age, and they said that COVID would impact them the most if they end up catching it. And the fact that they will put themselves in harm's way to get that money, to me, it just says a lot about what we value. I mean, that right there is kind of what I was talking to. Is a lot of times
The people will take their chance. You think people
right? Like, oh, I'll take my chance. Well, if I die, at least I, got enough money. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's that mindset. And like I said, I know for me, my shift came when I thought I was gonna die. So it's not like I was already there. You know what I'm saying? I was in the same mindset as everybody else. Like, I want to make this, then by the time I get this age, I want to be here, like setting those goals. And then that happens. And then just none of it mattered. I end up quitting my job where I was at because I'm like, the stress isn't worth it. Like, I just don't care. I'm out. I just can't do it. And I need to go find somewhere else that's going to allow me less stress, more time where I can come home and be happy with, my husband and spend time with him. Like, after that, I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm out. Like, it just wasn't worth it to me. It was like coming out of the Matrix, I guess. Like, it was just totally different for me in that experience.
No, I think COVID was a life or death experience for the world, or at least a perceived one, and it made
Mhm.
everybody reevaluate a whole lot of things. So I don't think it was wrong with that.
Let's read these super chats.
10 is having a 40-point game tonight. Woo
Yeah.
woo. E, sorry, it's 70%.
It's 70% of the
Yeah, it
viewers.
is. And it's going down, E. Let me just tell you, just from the research that I was doing, it's saying, divorce rates are going down.
But you'll never know if you don't ever get married. You'll never know if you're a successful one or you're not, because if you don't try. So how about that? What they say, a shot not taken is a missed shot, regard whatever it is.
Like that.
Just
I'm not just saying Hank is laughing at me like that got that shit all wrong.
He said it the right way.
Your heart was in the right place.
Right, whatever.
Say it
Right.
right.
Listen, before the night is over with, I want to give a shout out to Mackenzie Bezos, who said, you know what, I'm taking half of my man's money, and guess what? I'm just going to give it all away.
Oh,
First
yeah.
person in history to give billions away because she don't want it.
But she is going to keep enough, though.
I don't know. She said she wants to
paid to
donate
lead,
all,
though, ain't she?
and she wants to donate all of it, and she has put her money where her mouth is, and she's been doing it ever since, getting rid of it.
just something I want to touch on real quick. I don't know if it's even going to be real quick. For me, coming from where I came from, living in the project, single mom, to get to where I am today took a lot of hard work, took a lot of personal sacrifice. And I was just listening, and you guys were talking about reprioritizing when it comes to work and time with the kids. Me, I've traveled to Philly a couple times, DC a couple times, Virginia a couple times, Atlanta a few times. For work is what I'm talking about. It's not that, and I personally make a little bit over six figures, but it's not about not spending time with the kids, because obviously I do. I mean, both of them here right now, right? But it gets back to the legacy point. It's about setting them up for a life I never had.
An opportunity, because that comes with opportunity.
It absolutely does. And one of the things I've done with my son, for example, he wanted to quit football. So one of the lessons I taught him was we hopped in the car and I drove him around to several areas where it's drug infested and prostitutes, and I explained that this is where quitters end up. So when you don't see me and I'm out here grinding and trying to make sure that I maintain the life that you have, just know I won't quit on you, and I'm working for us. And that has set in motion. This kid is an impressive kid. Going to the number one rated school in the state of North Carolina. He's about to graduate high school. He's 18 now. Looking to go to Virginia Tech. Now he's gotten his first job as a piece of delivery kid, right? And he just got the job last week. He's been called 3 times, and each time he's, "Hey, Dad, can I go? Hey, Dad, can I go?" Dad, you work hard. Can't I work hard? That way you don't have to give me allowance anymore. Which was one, like when you see me blank off the camera, it's like, hey, we're going to talk about this, right? Understand that kids see it. We as men hope that our kids see what the hard work does. Understand that, yeah, we'd rather be there with you during every football practice and every football game and every win. We would rather be, I promise, and this is a conversation I've had with him, I promise you I'd rather be there with you. But the back end of that is, this is what we have to give up, and these are things that you would have to start doing in order to try to help out, or whatever the case is. And I hope and pray that he looks at me when he becomes JB's age the same way
He looks JB.
that JB looks at his dad and understands those sacrifices. And
We do.
and I'm just listening, and it's I hear this reprioritizing. I'm like, no, I've set a standard that I can't fail on. I've set the standard. They get the time with me when I have it available. It's not that I'm absent. It's like, this is part of that sacrifice. And I think we men kind of get that, and we expect the mom or the wife or whatever it is that you have in your life to kind of help fill in those holes if we chose right, which takes us all the way back to the very first part of this conversation about picking the right person.
Absolutely.
And that's how I think it all goes full circle. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and I know that was a bit of word salad, but I just wanted you guys to understand where I'm coming from, and I just listen. I'm like, no, you ladies are missing the mark. This is part of what men are DNA'd to do. We grind, we hustle, and we try to make sure that you guys have to do as little as possible. Like, I would venture to guess we wouldn't really want you working if we could get away with it, right? Like that, we don't really want you working. But
okay, real fast,
I'm about to stop. I'm about to stop.
I'm just saying, because I see the hands. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just gonna ramble. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Marcus. I'll go after you.
No, I was gonna say my pushback on it is a lot of people, instead of making money and reprioritizing life, we reprioritize things. So our creature comforts go up. I had an S class, now I need a Maybach, or I need to buy a 6-bedroom house when I had a 3-bedroom house. And those creature comforts, they're not worth it in the grand scheme of what you trade off for in time. So I don't think the lady's saying you shouldn't work and you should.
Yeah, but it's not always that. We can't deny the fact that when you have money, there's more opportunity for your kids. There's a standard of living, or just they just have more exposure, so to speak. When you have money, there's a lot that comes along with that.
It's a balance.
It's not about a Maybach or like all the finer things in life. It's just about, I guess.
But if you look at what we do for the most part, like Coach K gave the example of, her dad was a blue collar worker and he worked hard to send them to private school. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that he was trying to get a bigger house or get a bigger car or get all of these extras.
Well, that's what sacrifice
we do. The focus was, I want to set my kids up better, so I know education is the way.
The way I didn't, like Cap said, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. It's not about the car. It's about the when that comes with, because what you're saying is he made more money, but now he's able to afford something that certain parents are only able to afford, because not everybody's able to afford a private school.
Right. But what Marcus was saying was the fact that a lot of times is the extras. We end up making more money. The focus is no longer just the school. Now we're going to get the car to go with it. Now
one or the other kind of thing. Yeah.
So every other thing start creeping into, and then it builds that cycle, because now I got the car, now I got the house, and I got the private school. So now I got to work more hours to make more money, and now more time is taken away from the family.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I just want to check in and see if Marcus was done before I jump in. Were you done, Marcus?
Yeah, you can go. You can go.
So I wanted to say this because I think what I was saying in terms of balance sounds to me like it may have been misconstrued a little bit, right? I get it. I get that in order for a man to be a provider and for him to feel fulfilled in his role, he has goals for what that looks like. Whether it's moving from a 3-bedroom house to a 6-bedroom house, whether it's from, a decent car to a luxury car, whether it's from a good school to a private school, that man has goals, and that requires him being away from the family. And I also understand that that is a sacrifice that a man has to make. What I'm talking about when it comes to balance, at least for me, the type of man that I would like to be married to, the type of man that I would like to be the father to my future children, is to be available for the types of conversations that Tap said he had with his son. As someone who aspires to be a mother, I absolutely will be standing by my partner and saying, listen, your father is going to put in shit, you might want to mute. But I understand that it takes me as a woman who aspires to be a mother to have those conversations with children, saying your father is making these sacrifices for the greater good. However, if I'm the only one having those conversations, we both as a couple, as a unit, risk it falling on deaf ears if you were not also at least available sometimes to also have that conversation, where it doesn't look like I'm covering for you, but we look like a united front that are each willing to make our own separate sacrifices for the greater good. The reason I say that is there are a multitude of men that I've heard online and offline talk about how that is the sole responsibility of the woman to have that conversation. Those children are now dividing and conquering, where mom looks like she's covering for dad because dad is not showing up at all. Where, maybe Monday to Friday, where you're pulling in those hours and we're factoring in travel time and other people having other activities and busy life, that on the weekend or over the course of the week, you can't sacrifice 4 hours in total, right? Like when we're having those conversations, if we're getting too busy with life that we're not available to have those conversations, to me, that's where balance is lacking. Where you're there in physical, but you're not there to impart anything outside of physically being there sometimes, right? To me, those few moments, those 4 hours across the course of a week, because it doesn't make sense to have it each and every single day, 4 hours across an entire 7-day period, if you're not available to be there, to be present, to be active, this doesn't make sense. And I think that mentality is what's really pushing women to file for divorce, that if I'm going to really do this on my own, I might as well actually do it on my own, right? And I think that's not the conversation that we have often enough, that it's not, as much as women are incentivized to be financially provided for, because we are emotional human beings, right? We're not irrational, we're emotional, we're guided by our emotions, that if we don't feel supported in the sacrifices that we are making to support you in the sacrifices that you're making, that I might as well just do this alone, because that seems easier. There's less of a burden on me to just take this on all by myself and ask you to write checks on a regular basis than to continue to sacrifice with no appreciation, no support, right? That when I'm talking about balance, that's what I'm talking about, is when you are there, when you are available, that as a man, you make that count, that you're not just using that time to strictly rest, that you're making it count towards your family. And so that's what I was getting at when I come to balance, not giving more than what you're capable of, or sacrificing what it is to be that particular kind of man in a relationship, but really making your time count.
Yeah, but did you hear what you're saying? That sounds selfish. That you're ready to leave because you feel like you have to step up as a parent and do what you need to do. But what about the sacrifices man is working every day? That's a sacrifice. Going to working at a 9 to, and we keep saying 9 to 5. I'm talking about most guys are doing 10 to 12 hours a day. That is a sacrifice.
Or through
So
the
yeah,
night.
you say, well, I feel like I'm doing it by myself because he ain't here to do it. Well, let me say this: you won't be going to Trader Joe's anymore. You'll be going to Ollie's and getting your groceries.
And I'm
And that's
willing,
what
for me,
you're
I
saying
would be
too.
willing to do that to have you at home. Not all women are, but for
But
me, I would be willing to do that.
we all know most women wouldn't be willing to make that sacrifice. They are not willing to make that sacrifice. So now you're not going to get to go shopping freely or go on y'all girls trip because it's not feasible because I'm not working them extra 15 hours of overtime.
And I'm
No,
sure
it's not gonna happen.
Situation real
In fact, we
fast.
might not even get to go out of the state. We might have to do a vacation within our own city
So
or within our own state. And most of y'all women, that's not gonna go for that.
So let me just tell you this, Link. I've been listening to you talk, and the more and more you talk, the more and more your situation sounds like it makes sense because you sound like a provider. You sound like you put a lot of hours in, and that may be the reason, unfortunately, and I hate this happened to you, that ended up being the case in your situation when it came to your divorce, because it sounds like you are a provider. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that they do look for when it comes to divorce at the end, and that's the reason why you probably had to give up so much, unfortunately. Does that make sense?
No, because it wasn't the case.
Oh,
Okay, I'll say real quick, I'll just say, and I'm sure, like, Hink, if you're working this much, I'm sure you would much rather be with your kids
Yes.
than, like, obviously
Yes.
doing this on the, I just wanted to say that. I'm sure
the average guy
anyone,
doesn't like to have to work overtime.
Yeah.
10 to 12 hours a day. Nobody really does. I mean, you make good money, but then what about the wear and tear on your body? See, we're not looking at that. Y'all look at, oh, well, I'm just spending an extra 2 hours of my day helping our son get his homework done or doing this or doing that or whatever the case may be. But you're not looking at wear and tear this man may be putting on his body. I'm talking about the
question is, will you be willing to sacrifice that? Like, since as a man, you guys do sacrifice. So if you're saying is wear and tear in your body, if these extra hours is impacting your time to be with your family, what are you willing to sacrifice so you can minimize the damage to your body, maximize the time with your family?
You sacrifice your physical health.
That's my point.
But you're sacrificing sleep. You're sacrificing your health. You're sacrificing a whole lot in order to live comfortably.
But that's my point, is what I'm saying. So on that end, you just named all of the things you're sacrificing because of work and because you want to give your family a certain lifestyle. What I'm saying is, are you willing to sacrifice the lifestyle and maybe downsize so then that way you can minimize the damage to your body, to your health, and all of that, maximize the time with your family and live longer for them? Because I'm quite sure they'll rather have you around.
I don't know if you looked at how much it costs to rent an apartment anymore or a home if you rent that. Mm-hmm. It's going about $1,200 some places to rent. A house payment is going about $1,600, and these are not like it's you're living in the most lavish house. You talk about maybe a 3-bedroom apartment, $1,200 a month. A 3 to 4 bedroom house, $1,600 a month. That's not a drop in the bucket for some people.
No, it's definitely not.
LG&E, or we call it LG&E. Your light and gas, your water, any maintenance that you may have to do as far as on your cars or anything like that. All of this stuff has gone up. Price of gas, groceries, all this going up. So it's not like it's cheap. So most people have to work those type of hours.
He live in Kentucky.
If you have a woman who doesn't, maybe she doesn't work because you prefer her to stay home and raise the kids, in the case may be. So you might have to work those type of hours, them long drawn out hours, or maybe both of y'all have to work them hours, but your wife doesn't have to work the overtime. She could just work her between 30 and 40 hours and call it a day and do your thing.
And no, like I'm not going to sacrifice any of that, because I'm not going to, I'm not going to sacrifice the time at work, so the less money, even though I'm a salary person, but I'm not going to sacrifice that, because the smiles that I get when I'm able to take them out on the boat, when I do get time with them, or the fact that they can pick up their friends to go to school because they're the only ones with a car, right? So no, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, regardless of what it's doing to me, so that they have to sacrifice. I'm not going to do that.
Listen, you don't think that they would be just as happy as if you took them to the park and put them on the sweet? Like, I don't know the age of your kids, so I'm just
16
saying.
and 18.
So, well,
Yeah, I'm not
okay,
pushing
you're
my
not
7-year-old son on the screen.
now. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm trying to say is when I think about my childhood, the memories that I had typically were not memories that cost a lot of money. It was a lot of memories that I had that were great, were experiences that I had with family, like going to see my grandmother, running around in their yard, getting in their vegetable garden. It was things that it was the family experience. Now, that's not to say that we did go to Disney World one time. That was a great experience, but that was once. We didn't travel a lot as a family. The money wasn't there. It took us a long time to get to the point where we were able to go to, Disney World. That was that one trip. And not to say it wasn't fun, it was great. But in the grand scheme of things, when I think about the experiences that I had, it did not cost a lot of money, is what I'm saying. I think a lot of times, like what you said, you want your kids to do better than what you did growing up. You wanted to give them a better life. A lot of times, sometimes that better life may not necessarily have anything to do with money. It could be just showing up. If you're from a single parent household, both of you and your wife or whatever, you've already given them a better life just by having two parents. And I'm not saying things don't matter, but I just think we got to get to the foundation of what family is and means. And a lot of times we say money is what's going to help the family, and we sacrifice the family in pursuit of that. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay, we got 3 minutes. Wrap it up.
Okay, sorry.
All right, so I programmed my life around my childhood, I believe. My father died when he was like 33, 34. So the most important thing for me was to make sure that I was going to be there in my kids' lives if I die early. I'm really tall, and tall people tend to die earlier due to heart conditions and all this other stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I was there. So my standard of living is capped because my house paid off. I'm not trying to increase my lifestyle and take time away from my kids, because honestly, nobody knows how much time they have left. And while I'm here, I want to make sure I give as much of it as I can to my kids and my family.
So I wanted to jump in as well. I think that men are not a monolith, the same way that women are not a monolith. And hearing Hank talk, I'm very familiar with those types of gentlemen. To make that sacrifice, to put in less hours, to ask that woman to stop shopping at Trader Joe's and go to Aldi is just as much of a sacrifice as putting in those additional hours in terms of pride, in terms of being a provider, right? So I think it's really important to understand the type of man that you're dealing with, understanding the sacrifice that he takes pride in versus the sacrifice that hurts his pride negatively towards a relationship is essential to making that relationship work, because that what Hink is willing to sacrifice is not the same thing that Marcus is willing to sacrifice, which is not the same thing that Tap is willing to sacrifice. And so, ladies, to what Mr. Let Go was saying earlier, it's imperative to really vet that man, to really understand what it is, like his makeup, like what he identifies as being a man is super, super important. And just as important as it is to identify what it is that makes you feel like a woman, to make sure whether you guys fit or not. Because supporting each other and each other's sacrifices is really what's going to make that marriage work. It's not just the happiness, it's that feeling like the sacrifice is really worth it.
That was awesome. So, does anybody else have anything they wanted to add real fast? No, it's not mandatory.
Thanks for having me. I want to say
Oh,
that.
no problem. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, as always, to the chat for hanging in there with us. If you have not already, please make sure you press the like button. To my panelists, thank you guys for giving me your input. That's so awesome. Thank you guys.
Chic is back. Yay! I'm glad to be back.
Don't get the mics up. We ain't coming. I'm just playing. Good night, you guys. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you next Friday. See you later.